Chapter 727. Qin Haodong nodded and said to Liao Shiyuan, "Auntie, let me show you." Seeing that her husband and Su Hongba admired the young man in front of her so much, it seemed that the medical sage deserved his reputation. Liao Shiyuan stretched out her left hand and said, "Little Qin, sorry to trouble you." Qin Haodong reached out to feel her pulse and confirmed the position of cervical stenosis and nerve knot. Then he took out the needle bag from his pocket and began to give Liao Shiyuan acupuncture treatment. First, he used silver needles to seal a few acupoints around the affected area of the cervical vertebra to prevent severe pain when the cervical vertebra was expanded. Then he stretched out the index finger of his right hand and pressed on the Dasui acupoint of the cervical vertebra, slowly injecting green with genuine qi. According to the plan, he first used his genuine qi to slowly expand the narrow spinal canal. After about 10 minutes, it reached the level of a normal person. Due to the nourishment of the green with genuine qi, there were no hidden dangers when the spinal canal expanded. Then he began to use the Bodhi hand, using his true qi to transform into two nimble little hands, and slowly untied the knotted nerves. This kind of operation was already equivalent to a minor surgery. Under the observation of the primordial spirit, he could clearly see the node of the neuron. Like unbuttoning a button, he opened it with the Bodhi hand. After doing all this, he began to nourish the blocked meridians around the cervical vertebra with green with genuine qi. Half an hour later, the cervical spondylosis that had troubled Liao Shiyuan for many years was completely cured. Qin Haodong took back the silver needles and said, "The treatment is over. Andy, how do you feel now?" "All right, my head doesn't hurt anymore and I'm not dizzy anymore." Liao Shiyuan felt an unprecedented sense of comfort in her head. It was as if the whole world had become much clearer, and her mind was clearer. Even her thoughts were more active. She stood up from the sofa, spun a few times on the spot and jumped a few times. If she had done this before, she would have definitely fallen, but now nothing happened. She felt unprecedentedly relaxed. "Little Qin, your medical skills are really amazing. Thank you, I really want to thank you," Liao Shiyuan said as tears welled up in her eyes. Although cervical spondylosis was not fatal, it had been bothering her health for years. She had no quality of life at all. Recently she couldn't even go to work. Xiao Weiman also asked in disbelief, "Little Qin, has your aunt's illness been completely cured? Do you want to do something else?" Qin Haodong said, "You don't need to do anything. Auntie's cervical vertebra is healthier than anyone else's. You just need to pay attention to the computer and mobile phone in the future." Su Hongba praised, "Medical sage is really a medical sage. I can't do anything about this kind of difficult and complicated disease, but you cured it in an instant. I really feel inferior." Yang Haijing then said, "I've been in the medical field for so many years and have seen countless famous doctors, but this is the first time I've seen such magical medical skills. Today I've learned something new." Xiao Weiman took out a bank card from his pocket and said, "Little Qin, here's 100,000 yuan for your aunt's medical expenses. Don't think it's too little." Qin Haodong said, "Minister Xiao, you're treating me like an outsider. She's my aunt. Why do you still charge me for medical fees? Are you treating me like an outsider?" After entering the house, he admired Minister Xiao and his wife very much. They didn't put on airs at all. In the future he would need Xiao Weiman's help to develop traditional Chinese medicine. Of course he wouldn't charge for the treatment. Moreover, 100,000 yuan was nothing to him now. Xiao Weiman could only take back the card when he saw that Qin Haodong really didn't accept it. Liao Shiyuan said, "It's already noon. Don't leave. I'll cook some dishes to thank little Qin. Let's have a drink together." She was originally very good at cooking, but unfortunately she had been troubled by cervical spondylosis recently and hadn't cooked for a long time. Today she was well and decided to show off her skills. Qin Haodong didn't stand on ceremony. Yang Haijing naturally wouldn't let go of the opportunity to get closer to Xiao Weiman, so they stayed together. Everyone sat on the sofa and chatted. Qin Haodong said to Su Hongba, "Elder Su, why are you here in the capital?" Su Hongba looked at him meaningfully and said, "I came to the capital because of you." Qin Haodong said in surprise, "What does this have to do with me?" Su Hongba said, "Why not? After you dropped out of the medical college, Su Hui also went through the formalities to quit school. Now she has opened a traditional Chinese medicine clinic in the capital. As a grandfather, how could I be at ease? That's why I came to take a look." Qin Haodong didn't expect Su Hui to come to the capital. Needless to say, she must have followed him here. Yang Haijing heard some clues and said with a smile, "Elder Su, I have seen your granddaughter. She can be said to be an outstanding beauty. She is really a good match for Dr. Qin." Su Hongba glared at Qin Haodong and said, "My granddaughter is also a proud person. Countless boys pursued her since she was a child, but none of them caught her eye. Now she likes little Qin, but this guy doesn't appreciate it." He didn't even tell Su Hui when he dropped out of school and came to the capital without saying a word. Seeing that he was condemned by the old man, Qin Haodong quickly changed the topic. "Elder Su Hui hasn't graduated yet, has she? How did you open a clinic?" Su Hongba said, "Su Hui has liked traditional Chinese medicine since she was a child. She is very talented. Over the years she has learned most of my skills. Even if she stayed in school she wouldn't be able to learn anything, so I didn't stop her from quitting school. Last year, under the joint recommendation of us old guys, she also got the physician's qualification certificate. She couldn't let go of someone in her heart, so she opened a clinic in the capital." Speaking of this, Qin Haodong couldn't continue. He really had a kind of escape from Su Hui, so he didn't say goodbye when he left the capital. He didn't speak, but Su Hongba didn't want to let him go. "I met you here today. I'll go back to Shanghai now. I'll leave Su Hui to you. If my precious granddaughter loses a hair, I'll settle the score with you." Qin Haodong wanted to refuse, but he couldn't find any reason. Fortunately, Liao Shuyuan had prepared the dishes at this time. She served a table full of delicious dishes and asked everyone to come to the table. Xiao Weiman was very happy today. He took out a bottle of Wuyangye that had been treasured for many years and poured a cup for everyone. After that, they drank heartily and chatted while eating. After 3 rounds of drinking, Xiao Weiman said with emotion, "Little Qin, I didn't expect that there would be such a great doctor like you in the decline of traditional Chinese medicine. It's really a blessing for traditional Chinese medicine. Come on, let me propose a toast to you." Yes, little Qin is really the mainstay of traditional Chinese medicine. With him, I see the hope of traditional Chinese medicine. Su Hongba also raised his glass and toasted Qin Haodong with Yang Haijing. The few of them clinked their glasses and drained the wine in one gulp. "Great." Su Hongba put down his glass and said, "Traditional Chinese medicine is the treasure left by our ancestors to us, but now it's declining. If traditional Chinese medicine is really finished, we won't be able to face our ancestors after we die." Xiao Weiman said, "Mr. Su is right. Traditional Chinese medicine can't die. If there are more traditional Chinese medicine doctors like little Qin in our country, traditional Chinese medicine will flourish." Su Hongba looked at Qin Haodong and said, "It's rare for you to have such skills. You can't hide them. You should teach more students." Yang Haijing said, "Dr. Qin, Mr. Su is right. You should go to a university to teach and make more contributions to the development of traditional Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong said with a wry smile, "Director Yang, you must be joking. I'm just a little doctor of traditional Chinese medicine who hasn't even gotten a college diploma. Which university will hire me as a teacher?" Xiao Weiman said, "Education doesn't mean everything. There are many doctors with education in Wuxia, but none of them can reach your level." Yang Haijing said, "Yes, with your medical skills, you are qualified to teach experts and national masters, let alone a few college students." Su Hongba said, "Boy, tell me directly, are you willing to be a teacher or not?" Seeing that the old man was really serious, Qin Haodong said, "To tell you the truth, I have a lot of things to do. It's impossible for me to be a full-time teacher, but I can take some time to teach a few classes." Su Hongba said, "Well, Zhao Yonggang, the principal of the Imperial Medical College, is my student. I'll call him and ask him to let you be a guest teacher." Qin Haodong thought for a moment. He had completely subdued the 7 great families in the capital. There was not much to do before the alien demons took action, so he nodded and said, "Well, as long as the school agrees, I can teach a few classes." Seeing Qin Haodong nod, Su Hongba took out his mobile phone and dialed Zhao Yonggang's number. A few minutes later, he hung up and said to Qin Haodong excitedly, "I've already talked to him and he agreed very quickly. You can go to his place this afternoon." Qin Haodong said worriedly, "Mr. Su, have you told him my situation clearly?" "I've made it clear. Although you don't have a diploma and you haven't graduated from college, your medical skills are absolutely convincing." Zhao Yonggang also said that he values ability, not education. "There happens to be a shortage of teachers there, so you can go." "This afternoon?" Qin Haodong looked at the time. It was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He said, "Mr. Su, isn't it a little too urgent?" Su Hongba said, "How can it not be urgent? If you go to one more class, you may cultivate a group of good Chinese medicine practitioners." Qin Haodong said with a wry smile, "Well, I'll go there in a minute." Since Qin Haodong had something to do in the afternoon, they didn't drink much. After finishing a bottle of Wuliangye, the meal was finished. Su Hongba was going to go with them, but Qin Haodong refused. He relied on his own ability to teach. If he took Su Hongba with him, it would inevitably give people a feeling that he relied on his connections. Qin Haodong walked into the gate of the Imperial Medical College. He didn't expect that he would come to the Imperial Medical College as soon as he left the Jiangnan Medical College. However, his identity was changed from a student to a teacher. As soon as he walked in, his cell phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and found that it was Alice, the president of the World Medical Association. "President Alice, what can I do for you?" On the other side of the phone, Alice said in a charming voice, "Dear Qin, you recognized my voice at once. Have you been thinking about me?" Qin Haodong was speechless for a while. He thought to himself, is there no such thing as caller ID in China? Or does this beautiful foreign woman deliberately want to get closer to me? He said again, "President Alice, what's the matter?" Alice got to the point and said, "James just called me and said that you use traditional Chinese medicine to cure a patient with pulmonary fibrosis." Qin Haodong said, "Yes." At the same time he was very confused. He didn't know what the president of the World Medical Association wanted to do. Alice said, "Qin, I've seen the magic of traditional Chinese medicine, but many people in the World Medical Association don't believe in traditional Chinese medicine. I want to organize an investigation group and take them to Wuxia to see your medical skills. What do you think?" Chapter 728. "Okay, no problem. You're very welcome." Qin Haodong agreed without hesitation. It was rare for the World Medical Association to organize a special investigation team to visit a certain country, so he naturally knew the significance of this. Traditional Chinese medicine was weak now. If he could win the approval of the delegation of the World Medical Association this time, the influence of traditional Chinese medicine in the world would inevitably be greatly enhanced, and the degree of recognition of the people would also rise. When the influence of traditional Chinese medicine increased, more patients would naturally come to see traditional Chinese medicine, and a large number of young people would learn traditional Chinese medicine. Therefore, this visit by the World Medical Association was an extremely rare opportunity for traditional Chinese medicine. At the same time, it was also a double-edged sword. If he couldn't win the approval of these arrogant experts, the negative impact would be extremely terrible. Qin Haodong didn't care about this. He was confident that he could definitely conquer the whole world in terms of medical skills. On the other side of the phone, Alice said excitedly, "That's great, Qin. I can see you again. I left in a hurry last time and didn't have the chance to taste the legendary Wuxia food. This time you must take me to have a good meal." In the end, she even used a Wuxia dialect that she had just learned. "No problem. I'm afraid you won't want to go back to M country if you eat too much." Alice said, "It doesn't matter. Then I'll stay in Wuxia and eat with you for the rest of my life." Qin Haodong didn't know whether the president of the World Medical Association didn't understand the Wuxia language or she said it intentionally. In short, her words were a little ambiguous. Qin Haodong was still worried about Su Hui just now, so he didn't dare to provoke this foreign woman. He quickly changed the topic and said, "President Alice, when will your delegation arrive in Wuxia? We can set off at any time. We're expected to arrive in Wuxia tomorrow." Alice said, "But we have a lot of people. You have to find a suitable place. It's best to have a classroom so that you can introduce traditional Chinese medicine and show it to everyone." "President Alice, your call is really timely. I just joined the Capital Medical College and will go there to attend classes tomorrow. Then you can bring the delegation to the medical college." Alice said, "That's great. It's perfect." Qin Haodong thought for a moment and said, "President Alice, after all, I just joined the Capital Medical College. It's not appropriate for me to contact your delegation directly. You'd better contact the school through the Ministry of Health of Wuxia, and then come here for an exchange. That would be better." "No problem. I know Chinese people have a lot of rules. I am very familiar with the Ministry of Health of China. I will contact Minister Xiao later." Seeing that Alice knew Xiao Weiman, Qin Haodong didn't say anything more. They chatted for a while and then hung up the phone. After making the call, he walked into the school's office building, found the principal's office, knocked on the door and walked in. "Hello, Headmaster Zhao, I'm Qin Haodong." Principal Zhao Yonggang sat behind his spacious desk and looked at the young man in front of him who was younger than his students. He couldn't help but frown. It seemed that this teacher of his was really muddle-headed. Letting such a young man, who was younger than the students, teach at his own university. If word got out, wouldn't he be laughed at? "Oh, it's little Qin. What's the matter?" Zhao Yonggang asked with a fake smile. Qin Haodong said, President Zhao, Mr. Su just called you and asked me to report to you. That's it. Zhao Yonggang said, but his expression was quite cold. Qin Haodong immediately noticed that something was wrong. He asked, President Zhao, is there any inconvenience? Zhao Yonggang said, it's like this, little Qin. You see, there are a lot of teachers in our school recently. Several teachers who have just graduated with doctorates can't arrange courses. It's really not convenient for you to come. Qin Haodong frowned slightly. He didn't come here to find a job, nor for the salary. It was all for the cause of traditional Chinese medicine. He believed that Su Hongba thought the same. If Zhao Yonggang didn't agree before, he wouldn't have any complaints. But this guy was a bit two-faced. First, he promised Su Hongba, and then in the blink of an eye, he used the matter of education to pressure him. This was a little too unkind. You mean there are no vacancies in the school, right? Zhao Yonggang still had a fake smile on his face. Little Qin, I'm really sorry. There are too many people in the school recently. I'll contact you when there are vacancies. President Zhao, you just said that there were vacancies. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come. Little Qin, please understand. Mr. Su was my former teacher. How can I refuse him? Qin Haodong finally understood. It turned out that this old guy didn't want to offend Su Hongba, so he played a trick on him. In that case, I'm leaving. President Zhao doesn't need to contact me in the future, and I won't step into the Imperial Medical College again. After that, Qin Haodong turned around and walked out of the door. In a popular saying, it was the school's loss to reject him. Zhao Yonggang obviously didn't realize this. He said behind him, Little Qin, I'll talk to Mr. Su myself. There's no need to trouble you. Okay. Qin Haodong gently said 2 words and then left the Imperial Medical College. As soon as Xiao Weiman arrived at the office, he received a call from Alice. Hearing that the World Medical Association was coming to Wuxia to investigate traditional Chinese medicine, he happily agreed. After a brief communication between the two, he hung up the phone and called his secretary, Xiao Zhang. Contact the Capital Medical College immediately and tell them that the World Medical Association will come for an investigation tomorrow and specially attend Qin Haodong's course. Ask them to arrange the reception work. Okay, director, I'll inform them now. After that, Xiao Zhang took the notebook and went to the side to make a phone call. He was a college student who had just graduated this year and majored in secretarial affairs. He was very unfamiliar with the medical industry and had never heard of Qin Haodong's name. When he was on the phone, he felt that it was a little impolite to call Qin Haodong's name directly, so he directly changed it to Professor Qin. As soon as Zhao Yonggang saw Qin Haodong off, the phone on his desk rang. He picked up the phone and heard that the World Medical Association was coming to the Imperial Medical College for an investigation. He was immediately overjoyed. The World Medical Association represented the highest level of medicine in the world. It was definitely a glorious thing to be able to come to his school for an investigation. Other schools might not be able to get it. After hanging up the phone, his face was full of joy. It seemed that his luck had come. As long as he seized this opportunity, he would definitely win the favor of the leader of the Ministry of Health. If he did well, he would be able to go further. After the excitement, he also had a trace of doubt in his heart. Old Qin was just an ordinary professor in their school and his teaching level was also ordinary. Why did the World Medical Association want to attend his class? Could it be that he had used his connections? It must be like this. This old man had hidden his identity quite well. It seemed that he had to take care of him in the future. Qin Haodong left the Imperial Medical College and got in the car. He thought of Su Hui that Su Hongba had mentioned. A girl came to the capital for him and struggled here alone. It was really pitiful. It would be inappropriate for him not to go and see her. Thinking of this, he took out his mobile phone, typed in the words Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and then drove forward according to the map. At this time, gangsters with tattoos all over their bodies were blocking the door of the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. They blocked the door of the clinic and did not allow anyone to enter. Inside the clinic, Su Hui stood behind the consultation desk with a face full of anger, and a young man in his 30s was sitting opposite her. The young man was tall and fat, and his body was also covered with tattoos. He was wearing a thick and long gold chain around his neck, which was enough to be used to tie up a dog. The guy's face was full of muscles. At this time, he was staring at Su Hui with a lascivious smile, as if he wanted to stare into Su Hui's white and tender skin. The two gangsters, a yellow-haired man and a green-haired man, stood behind him and cheered. Su Hui glared at the man with the big gold chain and shouted, "What do you want?" The man with the big gold chain said with a lascivious smile, "Little girl, didn't I tell you that I'm here to see a doctor?" As long as you can cure my illness, I will immediately take my men and leave. If you can't cure my illness, this clinic will be closed. Su Hui said angrily, but I've already felt your pulse. You're in good health. There's nothing wrong with you. The man with the big gold chain said with a smile, that's impossible. I used to be famous for having sex 7 times a night, but now I can't even do it once in 7 days. How can it be possible that I'm not sick? Su Hui said angrily, I can't treat your illness. I've already called Grandpa. You can wait for my grandpa to come or you can go to another clinic. How can I do that? You're a doctor, so I'll treat you. Su Hui knew that she had met a hooligan. She said angrily, I can't treat your illness. How is that possible? Recently, everyone has said that your medical skills are good and you can cure any illness. I think you don't want to treat my brother well. People say that if you have a headache, you can cure the head, and if you have a footache, you can cure the foot. I'm sick here. Why did you touch my wrist? If you want to touch it, you should touch it here and then treat me well. After saying that, the man with the big gold chain pointed at his legs. Then he burst into wild laughter. The yellow-haired gangster also laughed and said, that's right. You didn't treat our brother well at all. How can you say that you can't treat him? If you can't use your hands, you can use your mouth. As a doctor, you must be serious. As long as our brother is satisfied, he will come to your business every day in the future. Su Hui was so angry that her pretty face turned pale. She raised her hand and pointed at them, shouting, get out of here. If you do this again, I'll call the police. The man with the big gold chain said shamelessly, call the police? Sure. I'm here to see a doctor. What can the police do to me? The green-haired gangster said, little girl, I'm telling you, if you offend our brother on this street, you won't be able to open your clinic in the future. The man with the big gold chain chuckled and said, little girl, come on. Let me have a good look and check my body. Get out. Get out of here. Get out of here, all of you. Su Hui had just left the campus and had never suffered such grievances. At this time, she was so angry that tears welled up in her eyes and her body began to tremble. Oh, little girl, why are you so excited? I feel sorry for you. The man with the big gold chain stood up from the chair and said, well, since you don't want to check my body, I'll take a step back. I've also learned some medical skills. Let me check your body, you scoundrel, don't come over or I'll call for help, Su Hui said as she stepped back, but the room was not big. Soon her back hit the wall and there was no way back. The man with the big gold chain showed his big teeth and said with a lewd smile, little girl, call for help. He said with a smile, little girl, scream. Scream louder. The more you scream, the more excited I am. On this street, no one dares to ruin my business even if you shout yourself hoarse. Chapter 729. Don't come over. Don't come over. Facing the approaching man, Su Hui became at a loss. Suddenly, she picked up a small flower pot on the windowsill with both hands and smashed it hard on the man's head. With a crash, the flower pot shattered, and dark red blood and mud flowed down from the head of the man with the golden chain. Ah! The man screamed and lowered his head to shake off the broken pieces of the flower pot and mud on his head. Su Hui took this opportunity to run out. But the yellow-haired man and the green-haired man had been guarding beside her and immediately blocked her way. The man with the gold chain stood up again and looked at Su Hui with gritted teeth. Bitch, how dare you hit me? I'll let my brothers take turns with you today. After that, he stretched out his big hairy hand and grabbed at Su Hui's chest with his fangs and claws. At this moment there was a loud bang at the door. Then the gangsters guarding the door were blown away like fallen leaves swept by a strong wind. At this time, the man with the gold chain gritted his teeth and ignored what was happening at the door. He still reached out to grab Su Hui's chest. But when he grabbed it, he felt as if he had grabbed an iron plate. It was not a woman's chest at all. He looked up and saw that a young man had appeared in front of Su Hui, shielding her tightly behind him. Get out of here. Qin Haodong secretly rejoiced that he had arrived in time, otherwise Su Hui would have fallen into the hands of this hooligan. He kicked the man's lower abdomen and sent him flying. Then he turned around and said to Su Hui, how are you? Are you all right? Seeing that her sweetheart suddenly fell from the sky, Su Hui could no longer hold back the grievance in her heart. She threw herself into Qin Haodong's arms and cried. Before the man with the gold chain came to his senses, he was kicked away. This guy was furious. He had been successful in picking up girls in the past, but today he was beaten like a dog. He got up from the ground and shouted to the gangsters who had gathered behind him, brothers, kill him for me. These gangsters were sent flying by Qin Haodong before they figured out what was going on. They were all angry and took out steel one after another. Chop. The knife rushed toward Qin Haodong. Wait a moment, let me deal with this trash first. Qin Haodong patted Su Hui on the shoulder and asked her to stand behind him. Then he turned around and faced these gangsters. With his skills, these people were not much different from flies. In the blink of an eye, these 7 or 8 hooligans were all knocked to the ground, leaving only the big gold chain. You don't come any closer. If you come any closer, I'll call for help. The man with the gold chain finally understood that he had met a tough guy today. He looked at Qin Haodong in horror and slowly stepped back. Soon his back hit the wall. The scene at this time was exactly the same as when he had just humiliated Su Hui, but the roles had been reversed. He had become the weak party being bullied. Qin Haodong looked at the big gold chain and smiled. Boy, don't you want to be cured? Didn't you want to have a physical examination? I'm also a doctor, let me treat you. No need, I'm fine. The man with the golden chain curled up his tall body in the corner of the wall and crossed his arms over his chest. He looked like a young girl who had met a pervert. How can you do that? Didn't you come to our clinic to see a doctor? Just now you said that you were impotent. Now I'll cure you completely. As Qin Haodong spoke, he gently tiptoed and kicked the man's legs. Suddenly, crack. Seeing this scene, the gangsters couldn't help but tremble all over, and the sound of eggs breaking unconsciously rang in their minds. The man with the golden chain suddenly let out a heart-wrenching howl and then covered his crotch with both hands. He jumped more than a meter high, then fell to the ground with a thump, rolling non-stop. Qin Haodong seemed to have done a trivial thing and said with a faint smile, "How good is this? You don't have to worry about impotence in the future. Once and for all you'll be cured completely." The man with the golden chain howled and shouted to the gangsters next to him, "What the hell are you waiting for? Call my brother-in-law quickly." Many gangsters looked at Qin Haodong in fear and couldn't help clamping their legs. No one dared to touch their mobile phones. Finally, the yellow-haired man boldly ran out of the door, took out his mobile phone and began to make a call. Qin Haodong didn't care about this and didn't stop him. He was very happy to see the man with the golden chain find his backer and solve the problem once and for all. Otherwise, it would affect Su Hui's business in the future. He turned around and helped Su Hui tidy up her messy hair. He helped her sit down in the chair again and then asked softly, "How are you? Did I scare you?" After seeing Qin Haodong, Su Hui's heart immediately calmed down a lot. This man could give her enough sense of security. She nodded and said, "I'm fine." "That's good." Qin Haodong poured another glass of water and put it in front of her. Su Hui hesitated for a moment and said, "Haodong, why don't we call the police?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Don't worry. There's no need to bother the police to deal with these scumbags. He was more useful to deal with these gangsters than the police. After all, the police couldn't stay here all the time." At this moment, there was an ear-piercing sound of brakes outside the door. 4 or 5 off-road vehicles stopped in front of the clinic. Then a young man jumped out of the car and rushed to the clinic aggressively, followed by 7 or 8 bodyguards in black suits. After seeing the young man, Qin Haodong couldn't help sneering. It turned out that the brother-in-law mentioned by the man with the golden chain was also an old acquaintance, Qin Chong, the young master of the Qin family. Qin Chong rushed into the Donghui Clinic of traditional Chinese medicine with his bodyguards. Although he had been pursuing Wei Yanran, as a young master of an aristocratic family, he couldn't stay still. Every night he would go to the nightclub to have fun. Not long ago he met a delinquent girl who was very beautiful, and the two of them hooked up. The man with the golden chain was the brother of the delinquent girl. With the support of the young master of the Qin family, he was even more unscrupulous. He ran amok on the street and became a local tyrant. A few days ago, Su Hui opened a clinic here and he happened to meet her. Of course, he wouldn't let go of such a beautiful woman. Today he came to take Su Hui as his own, which led to the following things. As the young master of the Qin family, Qin Chong certainly wouldn't take ordinary people seriously. He raised his chin and walked into the clinic with a proud face. When he saw the man with the golden chain lying on the ground and dying, he was shocked and asked, "Sangongzi, what the hell happened to you? Have you been castrated?" At this time, an indifferent voice sounded, "You're right. His balls were indeed broken by me." "Who the hell are you? How dare you touch my woman?" Qin Chong was infuriated. Although he had never thought of marrying that delinquent girl, they had a deep friendship after all. This big gold chain was also the person under his protection. Now that his balls were broken by someone, how could he put his face if it was spread out? But when he turned around and saw the handsome face in front of him, he suddenly felt like a big goose being strangled and couldn't say a word. "Qin Haodong, why are you here?" Qin Haodong smiled slightly and said, Young Master Qin, this is my Chinese medicine clinic. I should be asking you. What are you doing here? In order to prevent anyone from coming here to make trouble in the future, he directly said that this clinic was his. Qin Chong couldn't find a suitable excuse for a while. Originally, he had come to seek revenge for the man with the golden chain, but after seeing Qin Haodong, he didn't dare to do so. At this time, the man with the golden chain crawled over, stretched out his hands and hugged Qin Chong's thigh, crying, "Brother-in-law, you must help me. You must help me get revenge. It's this gigolo boy who beat me. Hurry up and help me destroy him." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Brother-in-law? It seems that young Master Qin is a relative of this man." "No, I don't know him at all." Qin Chong couldn't afford to offend Qin Haodong, so he quickly kicked the man away. The man with the golden chain had just been kicked in the balls, and now he was kicked again. He was suddenly dizzy and screamed, "Brother-in-law, did you kick the wrong person? Why did you kick me? Kick that gigolo boy. See? A relative is a relative. It's useless to deny it." Qin Haodong said with a playful face, "Young Master Qin, your brother-in-law smashed my Chinese medicine clinic. What do you think I should do?" "I really don't know him." Although Qin Haodong smiled warmly, this smile made Qin Chong feel very uncertain. He made up his mind to disassociate himself from the man with the golden chain. Qin Haodong didn't pay attention to him at all. He said, "Look, my good shop was smashed like this by your men. I have to compensate for some economic and mental damage. How about this, for the sake of our acquaintance you pay 100 million yuan and let's call it a day." "What? 100 million yuan?" Although Qin Chong was the young master of the Qin family, he only had about 100 million yuan in his pocket money. If he lost all of it, how could he go out and indulge in debauchery in the future? "Qin Haodong, you're blackmailing me. I don't know him at all. You can do whatever you want to him. You can even beat him to death, but it has nothing to do with me. He just had an ordinary friendship with that girl in bed. It was impossible for him to spend 100 million yuan on such a woman." Hearing this, the man with the golden chain trembled with fear and hurriedly cried, "Brother-in-law, you can't do this. You must save me." Seeing this guy calling him brother-in-law, Qin Chong was so angry that he gritted his teeth and kicked him in the mouth again. Suddenly, the man's mouth swelled up and his teeth fell to the ground. Qin Haodong said lightly, "Young Master Qin, we're all sensible people. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I just want to ask you whether you pay or not. If you pay, we'll forget about it. If you don't, I'll immediately take my men to the Qin family and smash it." Qin Chong had been in the outside world for many years, but it was the first time that he had met someone who wanted to fight the Qin family. But he didn't think that Qin Haodong was threatening him or joking. With the strength of the Tang sect, it was true that the Qin family could be crushed. If Qin Haodong really destroyed the Qin family because he had slept with a woman outside, Qin Zhanao would probably kill him in anger. The result would definitely be no better than the man with the golden chain. In the face of such a powerful threat, he had no choice at all. He gritted his teeth and said, "Give me your bank card number." Qin Haodong turned to Su Hui and said, "Give me your bank card." Su Hui didn't say much. She took out a bank card and handed it to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong threw it back to Qin Chong. Qin Chong's face was livid, but he didn't dare to hesitate. He took out his mobile phone and began to transfer the money. Soon Su Hui's mobile phone rang. 100 million yuan had been transferred to her account. Qin Haodong nodded with satisfaction and said to Qin Chong, "Take these people and get out of here." Chapter 730. Qin Chong waved his hand behind him, and the bodyguards came over and dragged the big gold chain out of the clinic. After going out, he looked at the wailing big gold chain with disgust and said to the head bodyguard behind him, "Find a place where there is no one, break his limbs, and then throw him into the mountains to feed the wolves." After that, he looked at the clinic behind him with resentment and then got in the car. First, he shaved his head, then took Wei Yan ran away, and today he was blackmailed for 100 million yuan. At this moment, young Master Qin hated Qin Haodong to death, but he was not strong enough, so he dared not say anything. Although these people were driven away, the clinic had been smashed. Su Hui put up a sign that said it was closed for business. Qin Haodong called Ma Wenjue and asked him to arrange for someone to clean up the place and replace all the broken furniture with new ones. While they were busy, a taxi stopped in front of the door. Su Hongba got out of the car and walked into the clinic. After entering the door, he was delighted to see Qin Haodong. He said happily, "Little Qin, you're here. I told you that you can't forget Hui Hui." Then he said to Su Hui, "Girl, why did you call me here in such a hurry?" At this time, Su Hui had already calmed down. She briefly told him what had happened to the big gold chain just now. After hearing this, Su Hongba immediately scolded, "These damn hooligans, do they still care about the law?" After that he said to Qin Haodong, "Little Qin, it's all thanks to you this time. Thank you for saving Hui Hui. But in the future Hui Hui will be alone in the capital. You must take good care of her." Su Hui naturally knew the meaning of this. Her cheeks blushed and she lowered her head shyly. "Well, I'll come here often." Qin Haodong nodded. Although he hadn't figured out how to deal with the relationship between him and Su Hui, he couldn't watch this girl be bullied in the capital. "That's great. You're like a man. Hui Hui doesn't forget you in vain." Su Hongba was very satisfied with Qin Haodong's attitude. Then he asked, "By the way, little Qin, did you go to the medical college today? When are you going to class?" Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "Mr. Su, I don't think the medical college is suitable for me, so I turned it down." "Turned it down?" Su Hongba's face immediately darkened and he said discontentedly, "You promised me that you would go to the medical college to teach. Why did you change your mind? Do you think the school is too low? If that's the case, I can call Zhao Yonggang again and ask him to raise your salary. A talent like you deserves a higher salary." Su, he took out his cell phone and was about to call. "Elder Su, this really isn't about the treatment. Qin Haodong." And Qin Haodong. Originally, he didn't want to mention this matter again, but the old man kept staring at him, so he could only tell the truth and tell him what had happened when he went to the capital medical college. After hearing that, Su Hongba's face was full of anger. He slapped the table and shouted, "Zhao Yonggang is playing with me. Let's see how I'll deal with him." Then he stood up and shouted, "Little Qin, come with me to the capital medical college now. I'll see if he dares to refuse you again." Qin Haodong and Su Hui stopped the old man and asked him to sit down again. Then they said, "Mr. Su, I don't think it's necessary to go to this kind of school. It's not in line with my original intention." "You're right. I didn't expect him to become so snobbish after more than 10 years. Su Hongba said angrily, "He doesn't want us to go, so we don't have to go. But you can't be lazy. I'll call Lao Wan of the Imperial University of Traditional Chinese Medicine now. We have a good relationship. You can go to his class." Su Hongba picked up his cell phone and called Wan Taisong, the principal of the Imperial University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Wan Taisong had been in the field of traditional Chinese medicine for so many years, so he naturally knew Qin Haodong's reputation. When he heard that the medical sage was going to teach in his school, he immediately said happily, "That's great. Thank you for introducing such a good talent to our university. To tell you the truth, our school is short of teachers now and there are very few capable teachers. You're really a timely help." Hearing this, Su Hongba was in a good mood and said, "Then it's a deal. I'll ask little Qin to report to you tomorrow morning." Wan Taisong quickly said, "How can I do that? I have to invite the medical sage to teach in our school. Mr. Su, give me Mr. Qin's phone number. I'll go there now." Su Hongba was very satisfied with Wan Taisong's attitude and told him where he was. Half an hour later, a spirited old man walked into the clinic. Wan Taisong was less than 60 years old this year, but he worked day and night as a principal, so he looked older than ordinary people. "Mr. Su, you've done our school a great favor this time." Wan Taisong greeted Su Hongba and then turned to look at Qin Haodong. "Is this Mr. Medical Sage?" Qin Haodong said, "Principal Wan, I'm Qin Haodong. Mr. Medical Sage, are you really willing to teach in our school?" Wan Taisong had heard a lot of legends about Qin Haodong. He knew that although the man in front of him was dressed in ordinary clothes, he was definitely not short of money. Qin Haodong nodded and said, "Well, I want to make some contributions to our traditional Chinese medicine." That's great, that's great." Wan Taisong said excitedly, "Medical Sage can teach in our school. It can not only be used as publicity for recruiting students, but also improve the quality of teaching. It's really a great thing." They chatted for a while. After Qin Haodong explained his situation, Wan Taisong said, "It doesn't matter. Whenever you have time, you can come and teach these students. If you have something to do, you can do it. In terms of treatment, I'll give you the treatment of a formal teacher. I'll pay you the salary and welfare according to the establishment of a professor. What do you think?" From the bottom of his heart, he felt that this treatment was really unfair to Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong was the famous medical sage, but as a principal, this was the most authority he had. Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "Principal Wan, it's easy to talk about money. You can treat me like an ordinary teacher. I'm not going to your school for money. Also, don't call me medical sage. Sounds awkward. Just call me little Qin." Wan Taisong said, "Dr. Qin, you're really noble. Then it's a deal." When do you want to come to our school to teach? Qin Haodong said, tomorrow afternoon. Principal Wan can decide the specific time. Wan Taisong said, well, let's set it at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Mr. Qin will come to our school on time to teach. After finalizing the specific matters, he did not stay any longer. He turned around and went back to the school. Qin Haodong chatted with Su Hongba and Su Hui for a while. He really couldn't stand the way old man Su looked at his grandson-in-law, so he declined the invitation for dinner and returned to the Tang sect. After returning home, he chatted with his mother for a while and then they walked into the restaurant together. In the past, the restaurant was always very lively. But today it seemed much quieter. Only Wei Yanran, Zhao Qingwu, Han Jiu and a few new girls were sitting at the table. Qin Haodong asked, why are there so few people? Where are Feng Wu and the others? Zhao Qingwu said, today the master of the Yan family brought news. He said that he had something to discuss with Sister Feifei and asked her to go back to the Yan family. Wei Yanran said, Sister Nailin and the others have reached a critical period of cultivation. They are cultivating in seclusion. As they spoke, a look of envy flashed in the eyes of the girls. Although they had also reached the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm, they had just learned martial arts. They could not be compared with Feng Wu and Hu Shaoxian in terms of state of mind and other aspects. Since Qin Haodong had set up the spirit gathering formation, the cultivation speed of the people of the Tang sect had accelerated a lot. In addition, with the supply of elixirs, Hu Shaoxian and the others were getting closer and closer to the saint stage. Today they had started the final sprint. Well, let's eat first. Qin Haodong asked them to sit at the table and was ready to eat. But at this moment there was a loud bang outside and then the whole restaurant shook. Qin Haodong was delighted. It seemed that one of the women was going to break through. He had thought of this when he was setting up the spirit gathering formation. At the same time he set up a concealing formation to hide the aura of the entire Tang sect, in case someone broke through to the saint stage and caused too much noise. However, the concealing formation could only hide the aura of the outside, but it still caused a very big movement inside the Tang sect. The qi of heaven and earth was unprecedentedly violent. Qin Haodong no longer cared about eating. He flashed out of the restaurant and rushed in the direction of Feng Wu and the others' seclusion. A whole row of practice rooms had been built in the backyard of the Tang sect. The rooms here were all reinforced by formations, so they were much stronger than other places. But even so, a room on the left had become dilapidated. The formations that had been set up before had all been washed away by the qi of heaven and earth. It was Feng Wu. It seemed that she was the first girl to break through the bottleneck of the saint stage. Qin Haodong added a few more formations in succession to protect the surrounding buildings. At this moment there was another loud bang. It was Hu Shaoxian who was next to Feng Wu. It didn't take long for the violent roar of the qi of heaven and earth in the next few rooms. Nailin Wushuang, Nailin Wuxia and Qi Waner had also broken through the bottleneck of the saint stage one after another. For a time, the qi of heaven and earth in the Tang sect was like a mad bull rushing around. Fortunately, Qin Haodong, a strong saint stage expert, suppressed it so it didn't cause too much damage. It didn't take long for the qi of heaven and earth to gradually calm down. Feng Wu was the first to walk out of the room, followed by Hu Shaoxian, Nailin Wushuang, Nailin Wuxia and Qi Waner. In such a short time, they had increased by 5 masters at the saint stage. If other families knew about it, what would they think? Fortunately, he had set up the concealing formation before. The inside of the formation was earth-shattering, but the outside of the formation was calm, without any impact on the capital. Haodong, we finally broke through. When the girls saw Qin Haodong, they immediately rushed to him like happy birds. After reaching the saint stage, they were astonishingly fast and surrounded him almost in the blink of an eye. At this moment, there was a loud bang in the city of the capital. Then the wind and clouds changed, and the qi of heaven and earth became violent and restless. These people had just broken through the bottleneck of the saint stage, so they were naturally familiar with what had happened. It seemed that there were also people from other families breaking through the saint stage. Feng Wu looked to the east and said, it should be the Qin family. It seems that someone from the Qin family has broken through. Qin Haodong nodded and said, the Saint Pill I auctioned last time was taken back by Qin Zhanao. It seems that one of the 2 elders of the Qin family took the pill. He was right. This kind of abnormal phenomenon did appear in the Qin family. Chapter 731. Feeling the powerful aura emitted by Qin Zhanao was ecstatic. The Yan family had Yan Feifei, and his family also had their own saint-level masters. They would not lose to the Yan family at all. Even without Qin Haodong's return, The Qin family had become one of the top families in the capital. They no longer had to obey anyone. At the same time, he was secretly glad that he had decisively bought the Saint pill at that time. If other families knew about it, they would definitely regret it. If others knew that the Saint pill was really effective, they would never be able to get it, let alone 500 million yuan. He took the other members of the Qin family and stood in front of Qin Zhan's room with joy, waiting for the first elder to come out of seclusion. Qin Chong packed up the big gold chain and then returned to the Qin family with his people in dismay. Before he got home, he felt the difference between heaven and earth. He had heard about the scene of breaking through to the saint level. He realized that his grandfather might be about to break through, so he immediately rushed into the Qin family excitedly. If his grandfather broke through the bottleneck of the saint level, he would be a saint-level master. In the future, he and his grandson would no longer be bullied by Qin Haodong. As soon as he rushed to Qin Zhan'ao's side, the surrounding scene changed. The qi of heaven and earth dissipated, and Qin Zhan'ao walked out of the room with a red face. What was different from the past was that his feet were in the air at this moment, about half a meter away from the ground. Flying in the air. This was the typical sign of a saint-level master. Only when one reached the saint level could he skillfully control the qi of heaven and earth. Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, First Elder. Qin Zhan'ao and Qin Zhanfeng greeted him with joy. At the same time, Qin Chong rushed to Qin Zhan's feet crazily, hugged his legs and cried, "Grandpa, you must avenge me. I've been bullied by Qin Haodong. First, he stole my girlfriend, and today he blackmailed me of 100 million yuan. How could he bully me like this?" Qin Zhan'ao had been holding a grudge against Qin Haodong for shaving his head. At this time, when he heard his grandson crying, his face immediately darkened. "Qin Haodong, you've gone too far. I must teach you a lesson today." After that, he grabbed Qin Chong and flew into the air, rushing in the direction of the Tang sect. "Hey, great elder, don't be in such a hurry to leave." Qin Zhan'ao wanted to stop Qin Zhanlong. Although they now had their own saint, Qin Haodong had Xinyuan Ligay of the Xinyuan Pavilion as his backer. It was better not to provoke him if possible. However, the speed of the saint was too fast. Before he could finish speaking, Qin Zhanlong had disappeared into the night sky with Qin Chong. Qin Chong was taken by Qin Zhanlong to walk in the air. After the initial panic, he felt the whistling wind around him and was overjoyed. Was this the strength of a saint-level strong? With his grandpa's support, he didn't have to be afraid of Qin Haodong anymore. At the same time, the other major families in the capital also sensed the changes in the Qin family. They realized that the Qin family also had a saint-level expert, so they immediately sent their spies to observe. When they learned that Qin Zhanlong had come to the Tang sect to make trouble, they immediately sent people to the Tang sect. But this time they came secretly. They were not as aboveboard as last time. They just sent people to hide in the dark and observe from a distance. A few minutes later, Qin Zhanlong and his grandson landed in front of the Tang sect. Without Qin Zhanlong's order, Qin Chong immediately rushed to the door and shouted arrogantly, "Qin Haodong, come out. I'm here to settle the score with you." At this time he put his hands on his hips and was full of momentum. With his grandfather, who was a saint, as his backer, who else in the capital could do anything to him? In the future, Qin Chong would be the top young master in the capital. He could bully whoever he wanted and flirt with whoever he wanted. After he dealt with Qin Haodong, the Wei family would obediently send Wei Yanran to his bed. Qin Haodong returned to the restaurant with the girls. Before he could eat, he heard the shouting at the door. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. It seemed that the grandfather and grandson of the Qin family were really impatient. They had just broken through and came to the Tang sect to make trouble. However, a single saint was far from being able to match up to the Tang sect. "Let's go out and have a look first. We'll eat when we come back." He put down his chopsticks and took Feng Wu, the Nalan sisters and the others to the gate of the Tang sect. Seeing Qin Zhanlong, who was full of momentum, Qin Haodong smiled and said, "Old Master Qin, congratulations on successfully breaking through to the saint realm." Seeing that Qin Haodong ignored him, Qin Chong immediately jumped forward and shouted, "Boy, don't talk nonsense. It's useless to flatter me. It's useless even if you kneel down to my grandfather. Let me tell you, today we must settle the old and new accounts. If you don't satisfy us, we will destroy your Tang sect today." As he spoke, he straightened his chest. The feeling of stepping on others with his strength was really refreshing. Qin Haodong looked at him and said with a sneer, "Then tell me, how do you want to settle the accounts?" Qin Chong took a look at the beautiful Feng Wu and the others and couldn't help swallowing hard. Then he said, "Send Wei Yanran back to me and compensate me with the women behind you. Then kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake." Then pull out all your hair and compensate me with 1 billion yuan. Then this matter will be over. You have so many requirements. Qin Haodong sneered and said, Tell me why? Qin Chong shouted arrogantly, Because my grandfather is a saint. In front of a saint, you 9th-level Supreme Power Masters are nothing. You are not qualified to negotiate with us at all. Qin Zhanlong did not see Yan Feifei and he felt much more relaxed. Otherwise the two of them were both at the Saint realm. Although he was confident that he would not lose, he would not be able to gain much advantage. Now that Yan Feifei was not here, he could destroy the Tang sect in a flash. Last time, he had been beaten by these women and shaved his hair, which had always been regarded as a great shame. Thinking of this, he could not help saying with hatred, Qin Haodong, don't you have many people? If you have the ability, you can beat me again. A playful smile appeared on Qin Haodong's lips. He looked at him and said, That's what you said. Qin Zhanlong said with a proud face, So what if I said it? Qin Haodong said with a smile, Then I'll satisfy you. I'm a saint now. No matter how many people from the Tang sect come, I'll kill them with one slap. Qin Zhanlong had just reached the saint realm. He liked the feeling of a cat playing with a mouse, so he was not in a hurry to make a move. Just as he was showing off happily, he suddenly saw a 10-centimeter high heel suddenly appear in front of him and kick him in the face. With a muffled bang, the kick was so hard and heavy that it directly sent Qin Zhanlong flying dozens of meters away. Qin Zhanlong's heart was full of horror. When he reached the Saint realm, his protective gang qi had reached an extremely strong level. Even ordinary swords could not hurt him. But the kick just now had directly penetrated the protective gang qi, kicked out 2 of his teeth, and at the same time his cheeks were swollen. How is this possible? Before he could come to his senses, a fist as white as jade appeared in front of him again. With a bang, it broke his nose bridge and blood suddenly sprayed out. Qin Zhanlong was furious. The momentum of the Saint realm burst out, but soon he sadly found that his momentum was useless in front of these women in front of him. He was still beaten like a dog by the intensive punches and kicks. Qin Chong, who was next to him, was completely dumbfounded. He had thought that his grandfather would be able to sweep the Tang sect when he stepped into the threshold of the Saint realm, but he didn't expect that he would still be beaten badly. What was going on with these women in front of him? Why were they so ruthless? They actually beat his grandfather so hard that he couldn't fight back. Could it be that they were also at the Saint realm? But that was impossible. Qin Haodong looked at him with a smile. He didn't ask Hu Shaoxian and the others to kill him, but he couldn't let the old man get away with it. Although there was no hair to shave, he could strip off his clothes. For a master of the Saint realm, it was very easy to strip off his clothes. With the release of internal force several times, Qin Zhanlong's clothes were shaken into pieces and scattered in all directions. In the end, only his underpants were left. Qin Haodong didn't forget Qin Chong next to him. As soon as he waved his hand, Zhang Tiniu and the others rushed up and stripped off his clothes in a few seconds, leaving only his underpants. Okay, come back. Qin Haodong called Hu Shaoxian and the others back. Now Qin Zhanlong was vomiting blood. If they continued to fight, the old man who had just broken through might really die. Grandpa, are you okay? Qin Chong ran over and helped Qin Zhanlong up. He had just broken through to the Saint realm, but he was beaten like a dog and his clothes were stripped off. Qin Zhanlong felt extremely aggrieved. He opened his mouth and spat out another mouthful of blood. Qin Haodong glanced at the two of them and sneered, Get out of here. If there's a next time, I'll kill you without mercy. At this time, Qin Chong couldn't care about anything else. He carried Qin Zhanlong on his back and ran in the direction of the Qin family naked. After they left, Qin Haodong glanced at the spies hidden in the dark of the major families, smiled coldly, and then returned to the Tang sect with his people. With absolute strength, he was not afraid of what other families would do. Seeing that Saint Qin Zhanlong was beaten by Qin Haodong and vomited blood, these spies immediately rushed back and told their masters the news. After getting the news, the other 6 families were shocked. They didn't know how Qin Haodong and these women did it. Were they also at the Saint realm? But then these people denied this speculation. If they succeeded in breaking through to the Saint realm, it would definitely cause a strange phenomenon in heaven and earth. There was no movement in the Tang sect, so it was impossible for anyone to break through. But if they were not saints, how did Hu Shaoxian and the others defeat Qin Zhanlong? After a heated discussion, everyone finally came up with an inference that Qin Zhanlong must have just broken through and his cultivation was unstable. And the Qin family made a sudden attack and defeated them with more people. Or it could be said that these women had some special joint attack skills, so they defeated Qin Zhanlong. In any case, the powerful strength of their side had been completely shown. Even if Yan Feifei didn't make a move, they could still defeat a saint. They definitely couldn't afford to provoke them. The next day, Zhao Yonggang came to school early to work. According to the notice received from the Ministry of Health yesterday, the World Medical Association would visit their school at 10 o'clock this morning and attend Professor Qin's class. He was very confident about this visit. He had made sufficient preparations yesterday. He believed that today's reception work would definitely satisfy Xiao Weimin, the Deputy Minister, and the World Medical Association. At 9 o'clock he came to the school gate and saw that the preparation work was ready. The selected male and female students were standing on both sides. The school gate was full of beautiful flower baskets, and the invited professional band was also in place. They were waiting for the arrival of the delegation. Zhao Yonggang nodded with satisfaction. At this time, several other vice presidents and the directors of the school also rushed over. The World Medical Association was coming for an inspection. No one wanted to be left behind in this kind of show. Chapter 732. Director Gao nodded and said, "Don't worry, President. I've arranged everything. The photographer we hired has won a prize in the city's photography competition." Zhao Yonggang then said to the vice president in charge of publicity, "Have you informed the news department?" The vice president said excitedly, "All the major news media in the capital are in place. The reporters will enter the venue at 9:30. As long as tomorrow, no, this afternoon, the news about our school will be broadcasted." Zhao Yonggang nodded and said to the vice president in charge of education, "The school is the most important thing. Are the teachers and students ready? We can't afford to make any mistakes during the public lecture." "Don't worry, President. There will be no problem. The students selected for the public class are the best students in our college, and the courses are also Professor Qin's best. Moreover, he started practicing yesterday afternoon and has practiced 3 or 4 times now. There will be no mistakes." After asking all the people in charge one by one, Zhao Yonggang breathed a sigh of relief. Now everything was ready and he just needed to show his face. At 10 o'clock, Xiao Weimin's car appeared in front of everyone on time. Behind him was a bus, which was full of members of the World Medical Association. "Everything is ready. Listen to me." Zhao Yonggang raised his hands excitedly and shouted to the band behind him, "Play." As soon as he gave the order, the band behind him immediately began to play cheerful music. Seeing that the car was parked, Xiao Weimin and Alice got out of the car. He waved to the students next to him again. Nearly 100 beautiful female students in uniform immediately waved the flowers in their hands and shouted, "Welcome, welcome, a warm welcome." Zhao Yonggang seemed to feel that the volume was a little low, so he raised his hand again and motioned for everyone to raise the volume again. Alice was not happy when she saw the scene in front of her. On the contrary, she frowned. She was a pragmatist. Otherwise, she would not have become the president of the World Medical Association at such a young age. Because of this, she was extremely disgusted with this kind of thing. It was meaningless to bluff. If it weren't for Qin's class, she would have had the urge to take him back. Xiao Weimin's face was gloomy. Obviously he was not satisfied. He had repeatedly told Zhao Yonggang to keep a low profile. Why didn't Zhao Yonggang listen to him? Zhao Yonggang obviously didn't realize this. He walked over excitedly and shook hands with Xiao Weimin and Alice with a flattering face. The teachers and students behind her were extremely surprised to see Alice. They didn't expect that the president of the World Medical Association was such a beautiful woman. After introducing themselves, Alice said to Zhao Yonggang, "Headmaster Zhao, our time is very precious. We don't want to waste it on such boring things. Take us to class quickly." Xiao Weimin also frowned and said, "Yes, hurry up and ask these people to stop." Zhao Yonggang's expression froze. He didn't expect that after spending so much effort, not only did he fail to curry favor, but he also made the leader unhappy. He quickly waved his hand at the band and the welcoming female students, asking them to leave. Then he asked, "President Alice, would you like to visit our school? Let me tell you, our school is definitely a first-class modern campus." He had also done a lot of work on the school's hardware. He was just waiting to show off in front of the inspection team. However, before he could finish speaking, Alice waved her hand impatiently. "Principal Zhao, we're here to listen to the lecture. Forget about the rest." "Oh, well, let's go to class now." Zhao Yonggang smiled awkwardly and then led the inspection team to the classroom. In the large lecture hall, the seats in the front row had been reserved. After Alice led the members of the delegation to sit down, The reporters and photographers who were constantly moving in and out pressed the camera in their hands with a click sound. Alice frowned. She glanced around the classroom but didn't see Qin Haodong. She asked Zhao Yonggang, "Headmaster Zhao, where's Mr. Qin? Why don't I see him?" Zhao Yonggang said, "President Alice, do you mean Professor Qin? He's already here. He's about to start the class." After that, he raised his hand and pointed to Professor Qin, who was wearing black-rimmed glasses on the podium. Alice looked at the podium again and saw a skinny old man in his 50s or 60s standing there. He was holding a thick lesson plan in his hand and was preparing to give a lecture. Qin Dongliang stood on the podium and still felt like he was in a dream. Although he had been diligent in teaching for so many years, he had never made any achievements. He didn't know why the World Medical Association suddenly wanted to listen to his class this time. Alice suddenly stood up, waved her hand and said, "No, no, no, I'm not talking about him. We're going to listen to Mr. Qin's class, not someone else's." Zhao Yonggang said with a confused face, "President Alice, this is Mr. Qin. There's only one teacher in our school whose surname is Qin." Alice was anxious. "We're talking about Mr. Qin Haodong. We've already made an appointment to come here to listen to his class today." Xiao Weiman also saw that something was wrong. He said to Zhao Yonggang with a cold face, "Headmaster Zhao, what's going on? Didn't Qin Haodong come here to report to you yesterday? He said that he would listen to his class. Why hasn't he come yet?" Qin Haodong? Cold sweat broke out on Zhao Yonggang's forehead. He had never dreamed that the World Medical Association would want to listen to that young man's class. At the same time, he complained in his heart. He thought that Qin Haodong was really cunning. He didn't tell Deputy Minister Xiao that he was here, nor did he tell him that the World Medical Association wanted to listen to his class. Wasn't he setting him up? Alice said again, "We're going to listen to Mr. Qin's class. Please find him to teach us immediately." Zhao Yonggang swallowed and said, "Minister Xiao, President Alice, there's a little misunderstanding. I thought they were going to listen to Professor Qin's class." Xiao Weiman said, "Well, you're wrong. Hurry up and call Qin Haodong back for class." "Well, Minister Xiao, Mr. Qin came to report to me yesterday. I'm not in a hurry to let him go to work, so I let him rest for a day. I'll call him now and ask him to come here immediately." Alice frowned and said, "That's not what Qin said on the phone yesterday. Hurry up and inform him. Our time is very precious. Please wait a moment. I'll call him now." Zhao Yonggang turned around and walked out of the big classroom. At this time he was sure that he had been tricked by Qin Haodong. This guy looked ordinary but he had such great power. Not only did he know Minister Xiao, but he was also familiar with President Alice. It seemed that their relationship was very good. The most hateful thing was that he was familiar with the two big shots. After being driven out, he didn't inform anyone and even asked the World Medical Association to come to his school. It was obvious that he was setting him up. But he couldn't say anything. Who asked him to look down on Qin Haodong? If he had known that Qin Haodong had such great power, he would have asked him to stay even if he had to call his ancestors. He took out his mobile phone. Now he had no choice but to invite Qin Haodong back to their school. Otherwise he would lose a lot of face today. After breakfast, Qin Haodong went to Su Hui's Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. After entering the door, he took a look and found that everything had returned to normal. The people Ma Wenjua found were really efficient. They repaired the clinic in one night. After what happened yesterday, the Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine was not affected on this street. On the contrary, it became famous. There was an endless stream of people coming to see Su Hui. At this time there was already a long line. Seeing that Su Hui was too busy, he also took a table, sat next to Su Hui and began to treat people. At first, no one came to his side. Later, Su Hui said that he was her teacher, and the patients came to line up here doubtfully. After seeing Qin Haodong's magical medical skills, more and more people came to see a doctor. Qin Haodong's speed was very fast. Basically, he could treat a patient in 1 or 2 minutes. The two of them worked together and soon finished treating dozens of patients in the consulting room. At this moment, Qin Haodong's cell phone rang. He pressed the answer button. Zhao Yonggang said politely on the other side of the phone, "Little Qin, it's me, Zhao Yonggang from the medical college." "Hello, President Zhao. What can I do for you?" As he spoke, Qin Haodong sneered. Just as Zhao Yonggang had guessed, he did not inform Xiao Weiman and Alice on purpose. Since he had broken his promise to Fang Yan and played a trick on him, he did not mind making him suffer a little. "Here's the thing, little Qin. In fact, I was just joking with you yesterday. Mr. Su is my teacher and I am his student. I can be considered your big brother. I was just joking with you yesterday and asked you to rest at home for a day. Now you can come to our school for classes. Don't worry about the treatment. With our relationship, it will definitely not be bad. It will be the same as a formal teacher. Qin Haodong laughed in his heart. At this point, the old fox was still beating around the bush. He said, President Zhao, I see. But I have something to do now. I will report tomorrow. Tomorrow? The inspection team will leave tomorrow. It's useless for you to come here. Zhao Yonggang thought in his heart, but he did not dare to show it. He quickly said, You can't do it tomorrow. Now the students are waiting for your class. Hurry up and come. President Zhao, didn't you say yesterday that there are so many teachers in the school that even doctors and professors don't need them all? I don't have an academic degree. How can they wait for me to come to class? Zhao Yonggang's expression froze, and then he said, Little Qin, since you are already a staff of our school, you have to listen to my orders and come here quickly. Otherwise, it will be bad if you miss this opportunity. Qin Haodong smiled. At this time, the old guy was still not telling the truth. He lost interest in playing and said directly, President Zhao, to tell you the truth, I am now a teacher at the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. I will go to class in the afternoon. Hearing this, Zhao Yonggang said eagerly, Little Qin, you can't do that. I was really joking with you yesterday. What is the treatment offered by the University of Traditional Chinese Medicine? I promise it will be twice as good as theirs. Hurry up and come to report now. Qin Haodong said, That's enough, President Zhao. You don't have to pretend. As for the World Medical Association, I will call President Alice now and ask her to come to the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine in the afternoon. Little Qin, don't be like this. You can work in both schools at the same time. I will give you the establishment and treatment of a regular teacher and pay you according to the level of a professor. Qin Haodong said, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in the Capital Medical College anymore. Hello, Little Qin, what conditions do you have? Just tell me. Don't hang up. Zhao Yonggang was talking anxiously when there was a busy tone on the other side of the phone. He hurriedly called again, but the line was already busy. Qin Haodong hung up the phone and called Xiao Weiman again. He explained what had happened yesterday and invited Alice to attend a class at the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine at 2:00 in the afternoon. Chapter 733. Xiao Weiman took the phone and was extremely dissatisfied with Zhao Yonggang's two-faced behavior. He immediately left the Capital Medical College with his men. Looking at the back of the delegation leaving, Zhao Yonggang was so regretful that he banged his head against the wall next to him twice. There was once an opportunity for both fame and fortune in front of him, but he didn't cherish it. Now when he thought of it, he regretted it, but it was useless. In the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine, the two of them didn't go out for lunch. Su Hui personally cooked 4 dishes. She was good at cooking. Although they were all light vegetables, they tasted very good. At 1:00 in the afternoon, Qin Haodong left the clinic and rushed to the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. More than half an hour later, he strolled into the university gate. Looking at the spacious campus, he couldn't help sighing with emotion. At that time, his dream was to apply for the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine, but in the end, he missed it. He didn't expect to come here as a teacher today. As he was walking forward, the cell phone in his pocket rang. It was the principal, Wan Taisong. He pressed the answer button, and Wan Taisong said excitedly, Little Qin, are you here? Minister Xiao and the members of the delegation have already arrived. Originally, he just wanted to hire a good teacher, but he didn't expect that a great opportunity would come along with it. He would wake up laughing even in his sleep. The World Medical Association had come for an inspection. He was afraid that after today, the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine would not be able to keep a low profile. President Wan, I've already arrived at our school. I'll come to you right away. After that, he hung up the phone. At this moment, there was a cry of surprise behind him. Qin Haodong, is that you? He took the phone and looked back, only to see a man and a woman standing behind him, each holding a mobile phone of the latest model. The man was about 1.7 meters tall, and his appearance was relatively ordinary. However, he was dressed fashionably and looked like a rich man's son. Next to him stood a tall girl who was about 1.7 meters tall. She had long hair and a beautiful appearance. She could be considered a beautiful girl among ordinary people. Seeing these two people, he immediately recalled countless memories. The man's name was Huang Fuxing, and the woman's name was Gu Xiaoyan. They were both from Wufeng County and used to be his high school classmates. Gu Xiaoyan was his first love. When they were in high school they had a good impression of each other. They even agreed to be admitted to the Capital Medical College together. In the future they would be together for a lifetime. But in the third year of high school Huang Fuxing appeared out of nowhere. He took a fancy to Gu Xiaoyan. Although she was not as good as Qin Haodong in all aspects, his family was rich. After giving her the latest Fruit 4 mobile phone, Gu Xiaoyan fell for him and became Huang Fuxing's girlfriend. Their love, which they had once thought would last forever, was ultimately lost to a Fruit 4G phone. Because of this, Qin Haodong was really depressed for a long time. Because of this, his college entrance examination results were affected. He did not enter the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine and entered the Jiangnan College of Traditional Chinese Medicine. However, Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan entered the Chinese Medicine Academy hand in hand. After so many years, this past event had already been buried in his memories, but the moment he saw the two of them, it resurfaced in his mind. Let bygones be bygones. Qin Haodong didn't care about it. He smiled at them and said, "Hello my old classmates. I didn't expect to see you here." He was very friendly, but Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan looked indifferent. They didn't show the joy of old classmates reuniting at all. With a sneer on his face, Huang Fuxing looked at Qin Haodong from head to toe. Then he glanced at the dummy mobile phone in his hand and said disdainfully, "Qin Haodong, I didn't expect that after so many years, you are still so miserable. You wear cheap clothes and use a broken domestic mobile phone." Qin Haodong didn't expect that they would talk about this when they met. He was slightly stunned at first, then he said with a smile, "Isn't that good? I think it's good. The quality of domestic mobile phones is not bad now. It's very comfortable to use. You're a typical sour grapes. You can't afford a Fruit mobile phone, so you say that domestic mobile phones are good." Huang Fuxing shook his head and said, "Okay, I won't talk about this with you. Tell me, what are you doing in our school?" Qin Haodong said, "I'm here to talk to President Wan about something." "To talk to President Wan?" Huang Fuxing burst into laughter and said sarcastically, "I didn't expect that after a few years, you haven't learned much other skills, but you have learned to brag. You're looking for President Wan? Does President Wan know who you are? Even Jiangnan University of Traditional Chinese Medicine has kicked you out. How could President Wan pay attention to you?" It was true that good news didn't go out, but bad news spread thousands of miles. It seemed that the news that he had been expelled from the university had spread here. Qin Haodong said lightly, "Believe it or not, I'm really here to talk to President Wan." "Okay, Qin Haodong, stop pretending." Gu Xiaoyan, who was standing next to him, spoke. Her face was full of disgust. "Qin Haodong, let me tell you, we're completely over, or we haven't started at all. At that time, I was just a little girl who didn't know anything, so I had a good impression of a poor tramp like you. But that's the past. I have a good relationship with Huang Fuxing. We'll get married after graduation. Please don't have any delusions, okay? It's useless even if you come to me." Speaking of this, she seemed to have not vented her hatred. She said, "Not only me, I believe that no woman will like a poor tramp like you who has no money and no career." Qin Haodong was speechless. This woman was really narcissistic. Did she have anything to do with him coming to the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine? "Gu Xiaoyan, you misunderstood me. I'm really not here to talk to you." "Qin Haodong, you still refuse to admit it. You didn't get here that year. What are you doing here now?" After being ridiculed by these two people in succession, Qin Haodong also lost his patience and his face became cold. "You're right. I didn't get in, so I could only come here to be a teacher." "What? You said you came to our school to be a teacher? A person who is not even qualified to be a student actually said that he wants to be a teacher here?" Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan looked surprised, as if they had seen an alien. Qin Haodong confirmed again, "Yes, I came here to report. From today on, I'm a teacher of the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Why don't you go to M country to be the president? Or the Superman who saves the earth?" Huang Fuxing laughed arrogantly as he spoke. His laughter was full of sarcasm and ridicule. "Qin Haodong, I really admire your ability to brag. You dare to say anything." Gu Xiaoyan said with a disgusted face, "Well, I hope you won't bother me again in the future. I don't want to see you." Qin Haodong didn't want to waste too much time with these two self-righteous guys, so he didn't continue to explain. He turned his head and walked in the direction of the principal's office. Looking at his back, Huang Fuxing spat fiercely and said, "What the hell? He has no ability at all. He was even expelled from Jiangnan Medical College. How dare he say that he wants to be a teacher here? He's really bragging." Gu Xiaoyan said, "He couldn't even afford a Fruit mobile phone for me. After so many years he's still like that. Huang Fuxing said, don't mention the fruit mobile phone. Look at his clothes. They cost less than a few hundred yuan. I can't afford to lose face if I tell others that he is my classmate. Gu Xiaoyan said, the most important thing for this kind of person is that he can't see the future. Even the school has expelled him. What can a medical student who hasn't graduated do? Come to our school to be a teacher. Huang Fuxing laughed again, his face full of sarcasm and ridicule. Although he has the same name as the medical sage, he really thinks of himself as the medical sage. He even says that he wants to be a teacher. Others don't know him, but we do. Gu Xiaoyan said, if only he could have 1,000th of the medical sage's ability. How could he be reduced to what he is now, cheating everywhere? Huang Fuxing said proudly, how about it? You made the right choice, didn't you? If you had followed this guy, I don't know what would have happened now. Gu Xiaoyan nodded. Although Huang Fuxing was not good-looking, had a bad temper, and often went out to flirt with women, he had millions of assets after all, and his job after graduation would be stable. Being handsome couldn't make a living. In the end, a woman still needed to find a trustworthy person to rely on. Huang Fuxing held Gu Xiaoyan's slender waist with satisfaction. Let's go. Today is a public class. I heard that the big shots of the World Medical Association are coming to listen to our class. We can't be late. Gu Xiaoyan said, yes, I heard that the school invited a particularly excellent teacher to teach us this time, but it's still a secret. I don't know who this person is. Huang Fuxing said, isn't it obvious? He must be a well-known national expert or professor in Wuxia. Otherwise, how could he show off in front of the World Medical Association? That's right. We can't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let's go. After that, the two of them hurried into the teaching building. Qin Haodong walked into the office building. Before he arrived at the door of the principal's office, he saw Wan Taisong coming to greet him from afar. Little Qin, no, now I should call you Mr. Qin. Wan Taisong was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. That guy Zhao Yonggang was really stupid. He actually gave away such a talent. Now he had lost everything. The entire medical community in the imperial capital knew that he had lost a lot of face. He took Qin Haodong's hand and shook it hard. Qin Haodong was his lucky star. Then he said, Minister Xiao and the people of the World Medical Association have arrived. They are in the big classroom now. Do you think we should go there? Qin Haodong nodded and said, well, let's go there now. The two of them walked to the big classroom as they talked. Wan Taisong glanced at Qin Haodong, who was empty-handed. Mr. Qin, today is an open class in front of the World Medical Association. Didn't you prepare any lesson plans? Qin Haodong raised his hand and pointed to his head. He said confidently, President Wan, the lesson plans are all here. In his eyes, the World Medical Association was just a little more famous. In terms of medical skills, they couldn't compare with him at all. Young man, you are bold. No wonder you are the medical sage. Wan Taisong had enough confidence in Qin Haodong. The two of them walked quickly to the classroom. The big classroom of the Capital Medical College could accommodate 200 or 300 people. At this time, 100 students were sitting in the front, and Xiao Weiman, Alice, and the members of the World Medical Association were sitting in the back. A group of students sat in the front and whispered. I heard that the teacher who will give us a class this time is a famous doctor. President Wan personally invited him with a lot of money. That goes without saying. If he is not a famous doctor, how can he show off in front of the World Medical Association and Minister Xiao? I heard that he is a national expert in his 80s. Are you serious? A few days ago, the students of the Capital Medical College laughed at our School of Chinese Medicine for having no future. Are you kidding? The World Medical Association has come to our school for an inspection. How can we have no future? I think they are the ones who have no future. Otherwise, why would the World Medical Association come to our school from their school? This chapter is updated for my book friend, Fat Cat. Chapter 734. When the bell rang, everyone shut their mouths. There was silence in the classroom. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the door of the classroom, looking forward to the new teacher's gorgeous appearance. At this time, a young man in his 20s walked in and walked to the podium. The student in charge of the examination was stunned. He had just counted the number of people. All the students who participated in the open class were in front of him. Who was this person in front of him? Which class was he from? He hurriedly asked, Student, are you in the wrong class? We are having an open class here. Please go out. Xiao Weiman and Alice at the back of the classroom couldn't help laughing when they saw this scene. Alice said, Qin is too young. If I hadn't seen his medical skills with my own eyes, I would have thought that he was a student. Xiao Weiman said, President Alice, there is a saying in Wuxia that young people are promising. It refers to a genius like little Qin. Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan were both sitting in the front row. When he saw Qin Haodong he was stunned at first and then he shouted, Qin Haodong, aren't you going too far? How dare you come to our class? Gu Xiaoyan also said impatiently, we are in class. We don't have time to fool around with you. Hurry up and get out. Qin Haodong didn't expect to see Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan here. 4 years ago, his grades were not as good as these two people, so he failed to enter the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. 4 years later he was standing on the podium and the two of them were listening to his lecture below. This was fate. At this moment Wan Taisong hurriedly walked in from outside. Just as he was about to enter the door his cell phone rang. Although he hung up the phone quickly it was too late. After entering the door he said to the audience, Students, let me introduce you grandly. This is Qin Haodong, Teacher Qin, who was invited by our school. Let's applaud and welcome him. Hearing that this handsome young man was the teacher of their class, everyone was stunned. After a while they came to their senses and there was sparse applause in the classroom. Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan were stunned. Just now, Qin Haodong said that he was a teacher in the school which was regarded as a big joke by them. In the blink of an eye it turned out to be true. He was not only a teacher but also a teacher in their class. Huang Fuxing couldn't control his emotions. He stood up and shouted, Headmaster, are you mistaken? I know this person very well. He didn't even graduate from university, how could he be qualified to be our teacher? Gu Xiaoyan followed and said, Yes, Principal, he is a big liar. You won't be cheated, will you? Wan Taisong frowned and said discontentedly, Shut up, all of you. Don't you have any manners? This is Teacher Qin I invited. If you're willing to listen you can sit here. If not, you can leave. Then he looked at Qin Haodong apologetically and said, Mr. Qin, the children are not sensible. Please don't mind them. He was afraid that the two ignorant students would anger Qin Haodong and end up like the Capital Medical College. Seeing that the principal was really angry, Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan did not dare to say anything and sat in their seats obediently. Then when he heard Wan Taisong say that they were kids, his heart collapsed. They were all classmates, okay? How did he suddenly become an insensible child? Does that mean we can still play together? Qin Haodong smiled and said, Headmaster Wan, it doesn't matter. Seeing that Qin Haodong really didn't care, Wan Taisong breathed a sigh of relief and said, Mr. Qin, I'll leave it to you. I'll go to the back and listen to the class. After that, he also stepped to the back and found a seat to sit down. Qin Haodong glanced around the audience and said with a smile, The two students just now are right. I was indeed their high school classmate and I didn't get a college diploma. After he said this, the audience was in an uproar. They didn't expect what Huang Fuxing said to be true. How could a student who hadn't graduated from university be qualified to stand on the podium? They should be the same age. Did the principal lose his mind today? Didn't he know that the World Medical Association was listening to the class in the back? Qin Haodong smiled again and said, Don't worry everyone. I haven't finished yet. Now let me formally introduce myself. My name is Qin Haodong and I have a nickname Medical Sage. I developed the Blood Revival Elixir, the 8 Treasures Kidney Nourishing Pill, and the Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company. I won the cultural exchange meeting between Wuxia and Neon in the south of the Yangtze River, and I defeated the challenge of Medical Sage of Koryo in Shanghai. Do you think I am qualified to stand here and be your teacher? Although the audience was very chaotic, his voice had a strong penetrating power so that everyone present could hear it clearly. He knew that it was not the time to keep a low profile. If he didn't convince these students of his age, he wouldn't be able to continue today's class, so he directly announced his true identity. Suddenly the audience became more chaotic, but the students' emotions changed from shock and confusion to fanaticism. Oh my God, he is Medical Sage Qin Haodong of Wuxia. He is my idol. Today I finally see him in person. No wonder the school invited him to be our teacher. He is Medical Sage. He is more than qualified to be our teacher. It turns out that he is the developer of the Blood Revival Elixir. He can even make this kind of magic medicine. He is qualified to be the teacher of all Wuxia traditional Chinese medicine, let alone our teacher. Huang Fuxing was completely dumbfounded. He had never expected that the classmate he had looked down upon was really the Medical Sage of Wuxia. They were not just people with the same name but actually the same person. The emotions on Gu Xiaoyan's face were unpredictable, and she couldn't tell what she was feeling at all. The man she had given up had grown up to be the Medical Sage of Wuxia, the founder of Tangmen Traditional Chinese Medicine Company, and the developer of the Blood Revival Elixir. What had she done? Had she been kicked in the head by a donkey? How could she give up such an excellent man? It was ridiculous that she had just shouted at him not to pester her, but now she found that she was not worthy of him at all. After giving everyone 2 minutes to digest, Qin Haodong said, "Okay, everyone be quiet. Now let's start the class. I will be responsible for teaching you the diagnosis of traditional Chinese medicine. The diagnosis of traditional Chinese medicine is completely different from that of Western medicine. It's about looking, listening, questioning, and feeling the pulse. An experienced traditional Chinese medicine practitioner can determine the type and location of a person's disease through his qi." While he was speaking, a foreigner behind him raised his right hand high. Qin Haodong said, "Sir, what's your question?" "Mr. Qin, I'm Rooney, the Vice President of the World Medical Association. I want to ask, can traditional Chinese medicine really determine the cause of a patient's disease without any instruments?" Seeing Rooney stand up, Alice's mouth curled into a smile. This vice president had a lot of prejudice against Chinese medicine. Many people in their team did not believe in Chinese medicine, and this vice president was the one who clamored the most. However, she had not disclosed any information to Qin Haodong before, because she wanted to see how this little man would deal with it. Qin Haodong said, "Traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine are two completely different systems. Traditional Chinese medicine has its own way of diagnosis. It can be said that traditional Chinese medicine itself is a giant machine that can detect all diseases." Rooney shook his head stubbornly. "Mr. Qin, I think you're joking. How can a person be compared with an instrument? It's too unscientific, so I think traditional Chinese medicine practitioners are all deceiving people." Qin Haodong was not angry. He said with a smile, "Mr. Rooney, you don't know traditional Chinese medicine at all, nor have you really known traditional Chinese medicine practitioners. What you said is completely your personal speculation. As for whether traditional Chinese medicine can cure diseases, I can give you a demonstration now. You can point out a person at random and I will immediately tell you where his disease is." "Mr. Qin, since you said so, I won't stand on ceremony." Rooney sneered. If Qin Haodong was just talking about theories, it would be inappropriate for him to attack him directly. However, if it was about treating diseases in practice, Qin Haodong was asking to be humiliated. Then he raised his hand and pointed to Huang Fuxing, who was sitting in the front row. "Mr. Qin, can you check if he is sick?" This foreigner looked very rough, but in fact he was very cunning. He had just seen that Huang Fuxing and Qin Haodong were not on good terms, so he pointed at Huang Fuxing first. Qin Haodong said with certainty, "He is sick." Huang Fuxing was sitting there depressed. When he heard Qin Haodong say that he was sick, he immediately jumped up and said, "I'm in good health." "You're sick." Qin Haodong said, "You're really in good health, but it's a pity that you have an allergic constitution. You ate seafood last night, so you have allergic symptoms today. Your arms and chest are covered with red spots." Huang Fuxing was suddenly speechless. He did eat a lot of seafood last night. This morning he had allergic symptoms and itched badly. He had just asked Gu Xiaoyan to apply ointment at noon. Seeing that Huang Fuxing did not speak, he guessed that Qin Haodong was probably right, but he still did not believe it. He said to Huang Fuxing, "Student, can you let us have a look?" Under everyone's gaze, Huang Fuxing helplessly took off his clothes and revealed his upper body. Everyone suddenly let out a cry of surprise. They saw that Huang Fuxing's chest and arms were indeed covered with red spots, which were typical allergic symptoms. Rooney was speechless for a moment. It was autumn now and everyone was wearing long-sleeved shirts. It was impossible for Qin Haodong to see Huang Fuxing's physical condition directly. "What do you think, Mr. Rooney? Do you still think traditional Chinese medicine is a lie?" James was also in the delegation. He immediately said excitedly, "I usually tell you that traditional Chinese medicine is magical and that my teacher is powerful, but you don't believe me. Now you finally see it, right?" Because of traditional Chinese medicine, he often argued with Rooney. Now he was very happy to see Rooney being defeated. At this moment, a black member of the World Medical Association stood up and said, "I'm Bolton from the World Medical Association. Mr. Qin, a case can be accidental. And I think he is your classmate, so you are likely to know his physical condition. This can't be counted." Rooney then said, Yes, I think so too. You must know this student's physical condition very well, so you made this guess." Qin Haodong glanced at the two of them and said, "Mr. Bolton, in that case I'll tell you about your illness." Bolton laughed and said, "Mr. Qin, you're wrong this time. I'm a member of the World Medical Association. Our medicine is very developed. How can people like us be sick? The others also showed a look of pity. It was true. What kind of place was the World Medical Association? It was the highest temple of world medicine. The medical skills there were very developed. Bolton had been cured long ago, not to mention that he was not sick. Wan Taisong's heart sank. Bolton was hale and hearty and he was strong. He did not seem to be sick. Although it was normal for doctors to make one or two misdiagnoses, if Qin Haodong made a wrong diagnosis here, he would definitely be laughed at by the World Medical Association, which would definitely have a great negative impact on traditional Chinese medicine in Wuxia. This chapter was updated by my book friend Alspch. Chapter 735. You're sick indeed. Qin Haodong was not moved at all. He said calmly to Bolton, you're generally very healthy but you have a problem. Bad breath, very bad breath. Bolton was embarrassed to be pointed out in public. Fortunately he was a black man and his skin color covered his blush. James said, teacher, you're right. This guy has bad breath. I have to keep a distance of 2 meters when I talk to him. Otherwise the smell will kill me. Seeing that the teacher had hit the nail on the black man's secret disease, the students present immediately burst into warm applause. They had been conquered by the reputation of the medical sage before, but now they had witnessed his magical medical skills with their own eyes. Qin Haodong continued, both Chinese and Western medicine have their own advantages. Although the World Medical Association's medicine is advanced, your bad breath comes from stomach fire. Western medicine can't find the root of the problem at all, nor can it cure it. So you've been troubled by bad breath all these years. I'm afraid you're still single. Except for serious rhinitis, I believe no woman can accept your smell. James cooperated and said, teacher, you're right. Although this guy has made a lot of money, he's still single. I guess he's probably still a virgin. He was very happy now. These people usually slandered traditional Chinese medicine and said that he had been brainwashed by Wuxia people. Although he was angry, he could do nothing about it. Now his teacher finally helped him vent his anger. Mr. Qin, I admit that you didn't misdiagnose me this time. Although Bolton was very embarrassed, he admitted it in public and then sat back in his seat bitterly. As soon as he sat down, another white member of the World Medical Association stood up and said, Mr. Qin, my name is Gulit. Although I've seen your magical medical skills, I still want to verify it. What's wrong with me? The classroom quieted down again. These people of the World Medical Association were very healthy. It was not easy for them to find bad breath. No one was sure whether they could accurately diagnose this man again. Qin Haodong looked calm and full of confidence as he said, your stomach is not good, but the instruments of Western medicine can't find the cause. You're afraid of cold and can't eat cold food at all. According to the standard of Western medicine, you're very healthy, but it's also very painful. This disease is called stomach cold in traditional Chinese medicine. The reason is that you like to eat cold food all year round, causing the cold energy in your body to be too strong. Gulit said excitedly, that's right. Mr. Qin, you're right. Chinese medicine is really amazing. I'm completely convinced. After saying that, he returned to his seat. Seeing that the members of the delegation were conquered by Qin Haodong's medical skills one after another, Rooney felt a little embarrassed. He said, Mr. Qin, since you're so powerful, can you tell me what's wrong with me? Qin Haodong said, you look very healthy now. There's nothing wrong with you except for your obesity. A smile appeared on Rooney's lips. He thought that he had finally found the flaw of this Wuxia man. But before he opened his mouth, Qin Haodong continued, but you suffer from seasonal allergic rhinitis. You are allergic to peach blossoms in March and April every year. You will sneeze and have a runny nose. Although this disease doesn't kill you, it's very painful. Western medicine doesn't have a good way to treat it. When the disease breaks out, it can only be maintained with steroid drugs. This drug has a lot of side effects. Your current obesity has something to do with long-term medication. Mr. Rooney, what do you think? Am I right? Rooney's face turned red. In the end, he gritted his teeth and nodded. You're right. I do have this disease. Now everyone could not calm down. It was not difficult to diagnose the disease when the disease was breaking out. But now it was September and there was still half a year before the disease broke out. However, Qin Haodong could see his hidden disease at a glance. This kind of magical medical skill could only be regarded as a miracle. Seeing that Qin Haodong's successive accurate diagnoses had completely trampled on the prestige of the World Medical Association, Rooney said unwillingly, Mr. Qin, we are doctors. What we need to do is to help patients relieve their pain. Accurate diagnosis alone is useless. The most important thing is to come up with a treatment method. No problem. Qin Haodong said, although the content of my lecture today is Chinese medicine diagnosis, if Mr. Rooney wants to see how Chinese medicine treats diseases, I can also satisfy you. Rooney said, well, please treat the case that you have just diagnosed. Goulet said, dear Mr. Qin, I have another question. I heard that although Chinese medicine is effective, the treatment period is very long. We need to drink Chinese medicine soup for a long time. You won't make us wait for a long time, will you? Of course not. Qin Haodong said, Chinese medicine is broad and profound, and there are many ways to treat diseases. Taking medicine is only one of them. In addition, there are acupuncture, massage, cupping, diet, and many other treatment methods. Then he took out the needle bag from his pocket and said, the diseases I diagnosed today don't need to take medicine at all. They can be solved by acupuncture. At this time, another member of the delegation stood up and said, Mr. Qin, I'm Nedved from the World Medical Association. Although I'm a Western doctor, I'm also very familiar with acupuncture. I've obtained an acupuncture certificate in M country. In my opinion, acupuncture can only be used as an auxiliary treatment to relax the muscles and promote blood circulation. It's impossible to use it to treat diseases. Qin Haodong said, Mr. Nedved, let me give you an example. For example, acupuncture is a very powerful high-explosive grenade, but if you don't know how to detonate it, it can only be used as an iron block or a hammer at most. To put it bluntly, our acupuncture is a hammer in your hands. The acupuncturists in M country don't understand the meaning and essence of acupuncture at all. Only in the hands of our high-level Chinese medicine can it show its real power. His words were sonorous and forceful. Seeing that Chinese medicine could finally hold its head high in front of the World Medical Association, the students present immediately burst into thunderous applause. Seeing that Qin Haodong was so direct, Nedved's face darkened and he said, well, Mr. Qin, let's see what's the difference between your acupuncture and mine. Who is the grenade and who is the hammer? It seemed that the foreigner was still very unconvinced. Qin Haodong ignored him and stepped in front of Huang Fuxing. Take off your clothes. I can eliminate your allergic symptoms in 5 minutes. Although Huang Fuxing was very unconvinced by Qin Haodong, he knew that it was an open class and it was not the time to be angry. He could only cooperate and take off his clothes, exposing his whole back. Qin Haodong held the needle bag in one hand and took out the needles with the other. He was so fast that before the others could see what was going on, there were already more than a dozen silver needles on Huang Fuxing's back. Nedved was shocked. Although he was also an acupuncturist, it would take him at least 5 minutes to finish the acupuncture on these acupoints. Qin Haodong's speed was so fast that he almost suspected that this Wuxia man was doing it blindly. Didn't he need to distinguish the acupoints? Didn't he need to control the strength? Qin Haodong ignored Nedved's shocked expression at all. He stretched out his hand and flicked the tails of the silver needles one by one. These silver needles were like engines with full horsepower, constantly trembling and continuously injecting greenwood genuine qi into Huang Fuxing's body. My God, how did he do it? It's not scientific at all. After the shock, Nedved took out a silver needle from Qin Haodong's needle bag and pricked it on his Higu acupoint. He thought that the silver needle was specially made and maybe it was made of high-tech stuff. However, he soon found that there was no difference between the silver needle and the one he used. The difference was not the needle but the way Qin Haodong used it. As the silver needle was inserted, the red spots on Huang Fuxing's body began to disappear at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just 5 minutes they had completely disappeared. Qin Haodong reached out and took all the silver needles back. Oh my God, traditional Chinese medicine is amazing. Just a few needles and the allergic symptoms are gone. How did he do it? It's not scientific at all. Is this medical skill or magic? I can't believe this is real. James cried, you didn't believe me when I told you. Now you see, my teacher is amazing. Traditional Chinese medicine is magical. He spoke with a proud face as if he was the one who had done the needles. After treating Huang Fuxing, the second patient was Bolton's bad breath. Bolton had taken off his shirt early, revealing his thick chest hair. Although it was not a serious problem, it had troubled him for many years. Until now he could not even find a woman. However, when he saw the shiny silver needles, he was still a little nervous and said, Mr. Qin, doesn't it hurt to be pierced by such a long silver needle? Do you need some anesthetic? Qin Haodong did not answer him at all. He raised his hand and pierced a silver needle into the Shanzhong acupoint on his chest. When Bolton saw the silver needle in his chest, he could not help but open his mouth in surprise. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not even have felt that there was a silver needle in his body. This technique was really amazing. Oh my God, Mr. Chin, how did you do it? It really doesn't hurt at all. Acupuncture is about the unity of hands, eyes, heart and mind. As long as you can do these things, it won't hurt. Qin Haodong said as he reached out and grabbed the real tail of the silver needle. He lifted it 3 times and pulled it out in just 2 minutes. Well, you can try it. You won't have bad breath anymore. Bolton stretched out his right hand to cover his mouth in disbelief. Then he put it to his nostrils and sniffed it. Then he exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my God, my bad breath is really cured. I can date beautiful women in the future. I finally don't have to be a virgin anymore." Several members of the World Medical Association next to him moved closer. In the past, as long as they were within 2 meters of him, they would smell the bad breath, but now they were within half a meter of him and there was still no smell. It was completely beyond their understanding that he could cure the bad breath that Western medicine could not cure in 2 minutes. If Bolton was not a member of their team, they would really think that he was hired by Qin Haodong. They all exclaimed, "Mr. Qin, your acupuncture is really amazing." Nedved said with admiration, "Mr. Qin, I apologize to you. In front of your magic acupuncture, I am indeed a hammer." Although he knew a little Wuxia language, he was not very proficient in it. He did not know that hammer had a different meaning in Wuxia. His words immediately made everyone present laugh. Next, it was Gullet's stomach that was cold. This time, Qin Haodong did not even use acupuncture. He stretched out 2 fingers and massaged Gullet's Zhongwan acupoint a few times. The pure green wood genuine qi quickly cleared the cold in his stomach. "Well, there is nothing wrong with your stomach now?" Gullet asked doubtfully, "Mr. Qin, you just touched me a few times. Did you cure my disease?" This chapter and the following 3 chapters are added for the readers who supported the monthly votes, such as the snail under the banyan tree. Chapter 736. Qin Haodong glanced down and saw a glass of iced Coke on the desk of a female student. He stepped forward and said, "Can you lend me your Coke?" At this time the girl looked at Qin Haodong with shining eyes. She would do anything for him without hesitation, let alone a glass of Coke. She immediately put the Coke on Qin Haodong's desk and said, "Mr. Qin, please take it. If it's not enough, I'll buy more for you." No, this is enough." Qin Haodong handed the Coke to Nedved and said, "Well, let the truth speak for itself. Try it." Nedved took the iced Coke and drank it all in one breath. Instead of the usual uncomfortable pain in his stomach, he felt extremely comfortable. He shouted happily, "It's so cool." Then he realized that his stomach was completely cured. He looked at Qin Haodong with gratitude and admiration. "Mr. Qin, thank you. Now I'm completely convinced by traditional Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong turned around and looked at Rooney, the vice president next to him. "Mr. Rooney, do you need me to help you treat your rhinitis?" Rooney hesitated. On the one hand, he also wanted Qin Haodong to help him relieve the pain of allergic rhinitis, but at the same time he wanted to stick to his position and did not want to give in like this. After a moment of silence, he said, "Mr. Qin, I think the cases you just chose are too easy. If you encounter an extremely difficult disease, you still need our Western medicine to solve it." "Well, then let's find a difficult disease and try it." Qin Haodong said to the 100 students under the stage, "Who has a difficult disease, the kind that can't be cured in many places?" There was a moment of silence because no one could tell what kind of disease was difficult. At this moment, a girl in the corner raised her little hand hesitantly. "Teacher, my name is Wang Li. I've been to many big hospitals and seen many well-known experts. I've even gone to M country, but all the doctors couldn't do anything about it." Wang Li's face was pale. Qin Haodong said, "Is it convenient for you to come to the front desk?" "Yes." Wang Li left her seat and walked to the podium. She was a slim girl with long hair and fair skin. But for some reason she always covered the right side of her face with her hair. Rooney looked at Wang Li and said in surprise, "Student, you look very healthy. Are you sick?" Wang Li hesitated for a moment and gently bit her lips. Then she lifted the long hair on the right side of her face. From the corner of her eye all the way to her chin, there was a dark green birthmark on the right side of her face. If one were to look at her left cheek alone, she would be a very beautiful woman, but with the black birthmark on her right side, her beauty immediately fell to the bottom of the valley. The reason why Wang Li hesitated was because of this. No girl would want to expose their ugly side to everyone. However, she had seen countless famous doctors for this birthmark, and in the end, none of them could do anything about it. Today she finally met the medical sage. She didn't want to miss this opportunity. If even Qin Haodong couldn't cure her strange disease, she would spend the rest of her life in darkness. Qin Haodong was not in a hurry to take action. Instead, he said to Rooney, "Rooney, is there any expert in dermatology in your World Medical Association? Please take a look at this classmate of ours and see if this is a difficult-to-treat disease." Of course. Rooney turned around and said to a bearded male doctor behind him, "Kyukok, please come here." Kyukok was a dermatology expert in the World Medical Association. He could be said to be the best dermatologist in the world. He came to the front desk and began to examine Wang Li's cheek carefully. He didn't stop until 5 minutes later. Rooney asked, "How is it? Can you cure this disease?" Kyukok shook his head and said, "This is a very special congenital birthmark. The melanin is not only on the surface of the skin, but also deep into the muscles. There is no way to remove it. Even with skin grafting, the melanin in the deep layer will soon seep out again. It's meaningless. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about this disease." After he said that, Rooney said to Qin Haodong, "Mr. Qin, this is a difficult-to-treat disease. Please do it." The meeting room suddenly fell into silence. Everyone was speechless. So many doctors couldn't cure it, and even the best dermatologist in the World Medical Association couldn't do anything about it. How could this be called a difficult-to-treat disease? It was simply a terminal disease. There was a trace of curiosity on Alice's face. She didn't know what Qin Haodong could do to deal with this strange disease. Wang Li looked at Qin Haodong eagerly with her big eyes. The young man in front of her was her last hope. Because of this birthmark, she felt inferior to everyone she met. Because of this birthmark, she hadn't had a boyfriend yet. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Haodong smiled faintly and said, "No problem, I can cure it." As soon as he said that, the classroom became restless again. Such a difficult skin disease. Can Mr. Qin really cure it? Isn't that nonsense? Mr. Qin is the medical sage of our country. There is no disease that he can't cure. I believe in Mr. Qin. Western medicine can't cure it, but it doesn't mean that Chinese medicine can't cure it. Huang Fuxing looked at his former classmate and felt both familiar and strange. He used to have a sense of superiority in front of Qin Haodong. He had a feeling of superiority in front of Qin Haodong, but now Qin Haodong had become an existence that he could never reach in his life. No matter whether Qin Haodong could cure Wang Li's strange disease or not, his medical skills and achievements were far beyond his reach. Gu Xiaoyan's expression was more complicated. Her eyes kept flickering and no one knew what she was thinking. Rooney sneered and said, "Mr. Qin, I hope you won't let us down." His opinion was completely different from that of the other students. In his opinion, this young man was completely bragging. Even Kyukok couldn't cure the skin disease, so other people were doomed to fail. Qin Haodong smiled and didn't say much. He asked the student in the front row to bring a basin of water and a clean scalpel. After everything was ready, he began to perform acupuncture on Wang Li. The silver needle first pierced into the acupoint on her neck and slowly moved upwards. Just now, he had clearly seen that the black poison under Wang Li's birthmark had indeed penetrated deep into her muscles, and the area was larger than it looked on the surface. It had already reached the position of her lower jaw. He forced the melanin out little by little through the place where the silver needles were pierced, and finally all of them were squeezed to the black birthmark. As time went by, about 100 silver needles were inserted into Wang Li's head, which was as dense as a hedgehog. At this time, the birthmark on her face was even more terrible. At first it was only dark blue, but now it had become as black as ink, as if it would drip out at any time. Qin Haodong pierced the last silver needle, and at this time, all the toxin of the black birthmark had been forced to her cheek. "I'm ready. There is one last step left. Close your eyes, it won't hurt." After that, he picked up the basin with one hand and the small scalpel with the other. He raised his hand and cut Wang Li's cheek with the scalpel. With a puff, a jet of pitch-black liquid spurted out and splashed into the basin, dyeing the water in the basin like ink. Qin Haodong reached out and pressed on Wang Li's cheek a few times to completely expel the black toxin, and finally red blood flowed out. He handed the basin to the student next to him and asked him to deal with it. Then he took out the gold sore medicine and smeared it on Wang Li's cheek. After doing all this, he took out all the silver needles that were inserted into Wang Li's body and said softly, "Okay, your birthmark has been completely cured." Wang Li slowly opened her eyes. Just now, because the silver needles had sealed her acupoints, she did not feel much pain. Hearing that Qin Haodong had finished the treatment, she took out a small mirror from her pocket and held it in front of her with trembling hands. At this moment, Although her face was smeared with the black gold sore medicine, it could still be seen from the exposed skin that the melanin had been completely removed. Her birthmark was gone. Seeing all this, she burst into tears. How many years had it been? This birthmark had given her too much pressure and almost changed her life. Now it was finally completely removed. Okay, don't cry. The wound has not completely healed yet. If you get too excited, it will have a bad effect. After comforting Wang Li, Qin Haodong turned to Rooney and said, Mr. Rooney, what else do you want to say this time? Rooney's expression froze. Qin Haodong's treatment was too special. Although the black birthmark had been removed, it was completely unreplicable for Western medicine. No one could use acupuncture to such a superb level. Mr. Qin, I admit that you cured this birthmark, but I don't think your surgery was perfect. Subconsciously, he attributed everything Qin Haodong had done to the category of surgery. Mr. Rooney, tell me, what's unsatisfactory about his treatment? You did cure this birthmark, but the way you used the knife was too rough, and the wound was not sutured. In the future, it will definitely leave a terrible scar on this beautiful lady's face. The purpose of treating the birthmark is to make this lady more beautiful, but you left such a long scar, so I say your surgery is not perfect. Hearing this, Wang Li, who had just stopped crying, became nervous again. Although the birthmark was gone, she did not want to leave a terrible scar. Qin Haodong said, Mr. Rooney, you think too much. I can even cure birthmarks. How could I leave such a big flaw? After that, he came to Wang Li, reached out his hands and gently pressed her cheeks a few times. Then he reached out his hands and tore off the medicine with the scab on the wound like a sticker. What appeared in front of everyone was a white and flawless face. Not to mention a scar, there was not even a flaw left. At this time, Wang Li was a complete beauty. Seeing Wang Li's delicate face, everyone under the stage could not help but open their mouths and exclaim. Even Alice could not help but exclaim repeatedly, My God, this is perfect. This is not an operation, this is magic. I'm afraid only God can do it. Looking at the flawless face, Rooney finally closed his mouth. He really could not find any fault. Mr. Qin, I'm now formally apologizing to you. You've shown me how shallow and ignorant I am. I've made a big mistake in my previous understanding of traditional Chinese medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine is a magical medical skill, not a trick or witchcraft. But at this moment, another member of the delegation stood up. He was a bald white man, Robin, the most famous surgeon of the World Medical Association. Mr. Qin, I admit that traditional Chinese medicine is really magical and it has opened our eyes. But I think it has one biggest flaw, which is that it can't stop bleeding in time in surgery. In the end, we still have to use our Western medicine methods to stop bleeding. 7th update. Chapter 737. After hearing Robin's words, the excited students immediately calmed down. According to their knowledge, traditional Chinese medicine was indeed not as good as Western medicine in hemostasis. If a person's major blood vessels were cut and bleeding, traditional Chinese medicine couldn't help much and could only turn to Western medicine for help. Under everyone's gaze, Qin Haodong smiled faintly and said, Mr. Robin, your words can only mean that you don't know traditional Chinese medicine. If you find the right way, traditional Chinese medicine can stop bleeding faster and the effect is no less than that of Western medicine. Impossible? That's absolutely impossible. Robin shook his head and said, Mr. Qin, don't argue. I know your Chinese medicine. Although the side effects are small, the shortcoming is that it takes effect slowly. The patient will die of excessive blood loss before the medicine stops bleeding. After that, he had a smug look on his face as if he had seen through Qin Haodong's lie. But this guy did do a lot of homework before he came and he had a certain understanding of traditional Chinese medicine. Qin Haodong said, if you use traditional Chinese medicine to stop bleeding, it will work. But don't forget another skill of traditional Chinese medicine I just showed you, acupuncture. Acupuncture can not only cure diseases and save lives, but it can also stop bleeding first and then bandage the wound in other ways. It's very effective. Robin said stubbornly, No. Although the acupuncture you just showed is excellent, I don't think this small silver needle can stop bleeding. Qin Haodong smiled and said, Since you don't believe me, we can show you on the spot. Wan Taisong stood up and said, You too, let's not discuss this topic. We are not an outpatient department and there are no bleeding patients here. His original intention was to help Qin Haodong. As the director of the School of Chinese Medicine, he naturally knew a lot about traditional Chinese medicine. He had never heard that acupuncture could stop bleeding. In his opinion, Qin Haodong was just trying to save his face. If he really did it on the spot, he was afraid that he would lose the face he had just earned. In this case, of course, the wisest choice was to stop while he was ahead. However, Qin Haodong obviously didn't intend to do as he said. President Fan, don't worry. There are ready-made patients here. Then he looked at Robin and said, if I'm not wrong, you have a cavity in your mouth. Robin said, yes, you're right. Mr. Qin, I admit that your diagnosis is very good, but it has nothing to do with traditional Chinese medicine. Qin Haodong said, Mr. Robin, the gums will bleed a lot during tooth extraction. If I help you pull out this cavity without a drop of blood, can I prove what I said? Robin was slightly stunned. As a doctor, he naturally knew the pain of tooth extraction and also knew that it would cause a lot of blood. Robin, he said. Robin said, do you dare to let me try and pull out your decayed tooth? Robin smiled and said, Fan, Qin. Qin Haodong said with a smile, since Mr. Robin agreed to let me pull your tooth, how about we make a bet? Bet. What I gambling? What I do? Bet. What? I say. Robin was indeed a gambler and he was excited to hear this suggestion. Robin robbing. To say. He. And I down. Robin. Bet. Is good. Yo. Robin. As the old saying goes, the guest follows the host. I'll bet as much as you want. Robin said. Robin said, how can there be no bleeding after a tooth extraction? Even the best dentist in Western medicine can only stop the bleeding after the bleeding. I'll bet with you. Let's bet $2 million. How about it? Then he looked at Qin Haodong. He didn't know if Mr. Qin could afford such a big bet. No problem. I'll bet $2 million. After saying that, Qin Haodong seemed to feel that the bet was a little small. He turned to look at the other members of the delegation and said, everyone, who else is interested in making a bet? I'll bet with you however much you want. Rooney said, I'll bet $5 million. But I'm a little curious. I don't know if Mr. Qin can afford it. At this time, Alice said with a smile, President Rooney, don't worry. I'll vouch for Qin. If he can't afford it, I'll do it. She had learned a lot about Qin Haodong in the past. She knew that this young man was not as simple as he looked. He was very rich. Since the president has guaranteed it, I'll bet $5 million with Mr. Qin. After Rooney, 3 or 4 members of the delegation stood up one after another. Together with Rooney and Robin, they made a bet of $20 million. After the bet, Qin Haodong began to extract the tooth. Robin asked nervously, Mr. Qin, what tools are you going to use to extract the tooth? Qin Haodong stretched out his hands and smiled. These are my tools. You're going to extract the tooth with your bare hands? Robin couldn't believe it and said, do you need some anesthetic first? No need. It's simple and fast and it doesn't hurt. Then Qin Haodong took the silver needles and quickly inserted 4 silver needles into the major acupoints on Robin's face. Before Robin realized what was going on, Qin Haodong reached out and flicked the root of the decayed tooth. He stretched out his hand and gently flicked the root of the decayed tooth. With a snap, a small white object bounced out of his mouth and fell to the ground. Everyone looked at the ground and found that it was a tooth that had been eaten by insects. Then Rooney and the others were completely dumbfounded. They had lived for so many years, but they had never seen someone extract a tooth in this way. Generally, Western doctors needed to disinfect, anesthetize, separate the gums, extract the tooth, and stop the bleeding. The whole process would take more than 10 minutes, but Qin Haodong only used a few seconds. It was too fast. The others were also dumbfounded. How was this a tooth extraction? It was obviously a magic trick. Qin Haodong looked at Rooney and said, President Alice, please come here and be a witness. Check if Mr. Robin's gums are bleeding. Alice stood up and walked in front of Robin to carefully examine his gums. She found that the place where the tooth was just pulled out, although the gums were red, there was not a single drop of blood flowing out. She turned around and said to the crowd, although I also think it's amazing and impossible, I can only tell you the truth. Robin's gums didn't bleed at all. Mr. Qin won the bet. His medical skills have created another miracle. After she said that, Rooney and the others still couldn't believe the result. They ran to Robin and checked for a long time. It was not that they didn't believe in Alice's fairness, but it was incredible. Rooney said to Qin Haodong with a shocked face, Mr. Qin, can you tell me how you did it? Qin Haodong said indifferently, President Rooney, stopping bleeding with acupuncture may be amazing for Western doctors, but it's very simple for us. As long as we thoroughly study the 12 meridians of the human body, we can stop bleeding in any part of the body by controlling the acupoints. It's too complicated. Rooney didn't know what the 12 meridians were at all. Although he didn't understand what Qin Haodong was talking about, he still said straightforwardly, Mr. Qin, although I don't understand the principle of what you said, we did lose the bet. Please give us your account number and we'll transfer the bet to you now. Qin Haodong turned to Wan Taisong and said, President Wan, do you have a card in your pocket? Wan Taisong thought that he had forgotten his account number, so he took out his bank card. Qin Haodong gave the card to Rooney and soon $20 million were transferred to his account. He returned the bank card to Wan Taisong and said, President Wan, I think many of the basic facilities of our school are a little shabby. You can use the money to repair them. It's a gift from me to our school. How can I do that? Wan Taisong was quite surprised. He didn't expect Qin Haodong to be so generous. He donated $20 million in the blink of an eye, which was more than 100 million yuan. The others present were also quite surprised, including the members of the delegation of the World Medical Association. A doctor who could practice medical skills to a superb level and at the same time treat money as dirt deserved everyone's respect. Qin Haodong said indifferently, President Wan, there's nothing wrong with it. Just take it. Don't stand on ceremony. The School of Chinese Medicine had indeed been short of funds in recent years. Wan Taisong had been worried about this matter recently. The money donated by Qin Haodong was completely a timely help. He stood up and bowed deeply to Qin Haodong. Mr. Qin, on behalf of the 3,000 teachers and students of the school, I thank you. There was no agreement, but the 100 students present also stood up neatly and bowed to Qin Haodong together. Mr. Qin, we thank you. Although it was less than a class, Qin Haodong had conquered every student present through his medical skills and character. Seeing this scene, all the members of the delegation couldn't help applauding and looking at Qin Haodong with admiration. At this moment, a middle-aged man in his 40s appeared in front of the classroom door. He knocked on the door and said, excuse me, is President Rooney here? The middle-aged man didn't know what was wrong with him. He hiccuped as he spoke. Rooney's face lit up and he hurriedly said, Mr. Zhang, I'm here. Please come over here. Although he now admired Qin Haodong very much, although he had already recognized Qin Haodong's medical skills, although he had just been convinced of his defeat, he still felt that it was necessary to do something for the face of the World Medical Association and Western medicine. The middle-aged man who came to the door was the one he had prepared before. Now he came at the right time. When he came to Rooney, the middle-aged man said with a smile, President Rooney, I didn't expect you to come to Wuxia. That's great. Otherwise I would like to go to M country. Rooney took the middle-aged man's hand and said to everyone present, let me introduce him to you. This is my patient Mr. Zhang. 2 years ago he had a very strange disease and I cured him. Then he said to the middle-aged man, Mr. Zhang, please tell us about your condition. Qin Haodong smiled and immediately understood that this middle-aged man was Rooney's preparation in advance. His purpose was to show the medical skills of the World Medical Association in the School of Chinese Medicine. As expected, the middle-aged man said, 3 years ago, I had a strange disease. I kept hiccuping and I couldn't stop. During this period, I went to many famous hospitals and visited many experts and professors. I did countless examinations, but no one could find the cause of my disease. Later, I went to the World Medical Association. The advanced instruments there still couldn't find the cause of my disease. However, Mr. Rooney received me and developed a medicine for me according to my condition. After I took it, my disease was relieved. But after I stopped taking the medicine for a year, my disease relapsed again, so I would like to ask President Rooney to treat me. The 8th update. Chapter 738. As he explained his condition, he kept burping. Although this kind of scene looked a little funny, his face was really in pain. People would feel very comfortable if they occasionally burped, and they could even accept it if they burped twice. However, if they burped continuously even when they were sleeping at night, it would be an extremely painful experience. After that, Rooney asked again, Mr. Zhang, have you seen a Chinese medicine practitioner during this period? The middle-aged man said, why not? I visited all the famous doctors except for those who are very difficult to make an appointment with, but it still didn't work. Rooney's mouth turned up and a smile bloomed on his face. Finally, he could save some face in front of Chinese medicine practitioners. He said, Mr. Zhang, don't worry. I've developed a new drug recently. It has a special effect on your disease. It not only works faster than last time but also lasts longer. The middle-aged man said with joy, really, President Rooney? Thank you so much. Rooney nodded and then looked at Qin Haodong proudly, Mr. Qin, I have to say that there are some diseases that you Chinese medicine practitioners can't cure. Only we can cure them. Qin Haodong couldn't help shaking his head with a wry smile when he saw the foreigner showing off to him. Rooney said, "What's wrong, Mr. Qin? Are you still not convinced?" Qin Haodong said, "President Rooney, this kind of disease doesn't need to take medicine at all. Under your treatment, not only does he need to take medicine for a long time, but he will also relapse regularly. I really don't know what you are proud of." Then he turned to the middle-aged man and said, "If I'm not wrong, this medicine must be expensive, right? Of course it's not cheap. It costs tens of thousands of yuan every month, but I have no choice but to treat the disease." The middle-aged man showed a wry smile, but he felt that what he said might be a little inappropriate. He hurriedly looked at Rooney, for fear that he would annoy the vice president of the World Medical Association and refused to treat him. Rooney's face immediately darkened. Curing Mr. Zhang's disease had always been one of the things he was proud of. At this time he was belittled by Qin Haodong, so he was naturally very dissatisfied. "Mr. Qin, you just heard that Mr. Zhang has seen many Chinese medicine practitioners, but they can't do anything about it. It was me who cured him." "Mr. Rooney, let me correct you. You didn't cure him. You only alleviated Mr. Zhang's symptoms. You didn't get rid of the root cause." Rooney was not convinced and said, "Mr. Qin, it's already a great thing to be able to alleviate the symptoms of a disease for which we can't find the cause at all. Only the high-end talents of our World Medical Association can develop this kind of medicine." Qin Haodong shook his head and said to the middle-aged man, "Are you having an attack now?" The middle-aged man said as he hiccuped, "Yes, it's relapsing again in the past few days, but it's not the most serious state. At the most serious state he would hiccup every 3 to 5 seconds. Let me tell you, although this disease doesn't kill people and it doesn't affect eating and drinking, it is so painful that I want to die. There were a few times when I wanted to commit suicide. Don't worry, I can cure your illness and you don't need to take medicine. It's just a little painful, but it will be over soon." The middle-aged man said with surprise, "Little brother, you're not lying to me, are you?" Rooney said, No, that's impossible. "Mr. Qin, you're bragging. Whether I'm bragging or not, we'll see the results soon." Qin Haodong smiled and then said to the middle-aged man, "Take a deep breath first, and I'll help you treat it right away." The middle-aged man took a deep breath as instructed, but when he was inhaling, Qin Haodong suddenly punched him in the stomach. The punch was so powerful that the middle-aged man was caught off guard. He immediately curled up in pain and sat on the ground. The people around were stunned. They didn't know what was wrong with Qin Haodong. Why did he suddenly hit the middle-aged man? Rooney was stunned for a moment, then he came to his senses and cried, "Mr. Qin, you can't do this. How can you hit my patient? It's very immoral." After a short pain, the middle-aged man slowly stood up from the ground and shouted at Qin Haodong angrily, "What are you doing? Why did you hit me?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Mr. Zhang, I've already told you that my treatment method is a little painful, but it will be over soon. Are you cured now?" Only then did the middle-aged man realize that he really didn't hiccup. He said excitedly, "Yes, I'm really cured. Little brother, you are really a magic doctor." In order to treat this strange disease over the years, he had almost spent all his money and seen famous doctors all over the world, but none of them worked. He didn't expect that he would be cured by Qin Haodong's punch. Rooney's mouth was wide open, and he looked even more shocked than before. He didn't expect that his disease, which was an excellent case, would be cured by a punch. "Mr. Qin, your treatment method is really special. Is he completely cured now?" Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "No, it will probably relapse in 2 years." Mr. Zhang said, "It doesn't matter. 2 years is a long time. I'll ask you to give me another punch in 2 years at most." Although the punch just made him suffer a little, it was nothing compared with the suffering he had suffered in seeking medical treatment everywhere. Although the World Medical Association finally received him, he had also suffered countless disdain and humiliation. Qin Haodong said, "There's no need to be so troublesome. As long as the cause is found, it can be cured completely." The middle-aged man's eyes suddenly widened. "Little brother, can you really find the cause of my disease?" He had used countless advanced instruments, but he hadn't found the cause. If Qin Haodong hadn't just relieved his disease, he would have thought that he had met a madman. Qin Haodong said, "Your physique is very special. If I'm not wrong, it should be a congenital cold physique. You have been afraid of cold since you were a child." The middle-aged man kept nodding and said, "Little brother, you are right. I am indeed like this." Qin Haodong continued, "With your physique you should find a place with a strong yang qi to live, but you moved to a place with a strong yang qi a few years ago. If I'm not wrong, your family should live by the water. The middle-aged man carefully recalled, and then cried excitedly, "Little brother, you are right. I bought a house with a water view by the lake 3 years ago, and soon after the disease began." Qin Haodong said, "That's the problem. Your physique is not suitable for living by the water." The middle-aged man said excitedly, "Little brother, do you mean that as long as I move, this disease can be completely cured?" "Yes. In addition, you should quit smoking and drinking according to your physique. Eat less cold drinks and cold food. Eat more black beans, mutton, and other food that can promote blood and strengthen yang." "I see, little brother. Thank you so much." Then he opened his handbag, took out 2 stacks of new Wuxia currency and put them in Qin Haodong's hand. "Little brother, this is the consultation fee. Don't think it's too little." Qin Haodong returned the money to him. "Forget it. Today we are lecturing, not visiting. The consultation fee is waived." Seeing that Qin Haodong insisted, the middle-aged man could only take the money back. Then he asked, "Little brother, tell me your name. I want to know who my benefactor is." "He is Qin Haodong, the medical sage of Wuxia." With a stiff Wuxia language, Alice walked slowly to the podium. She glanced at her men and said, "Rooney, Nedved, what do you think? Are you guys convinced now?" Although Rooney was stubborn, he was still convinced by Qin Haodong's medical skills after all. He said sincerely, "President Alice, we are really convinced. Chinese medicine is really a very magical medicine. It's worth learning and studying." The others also followed suit. "President Alice, we're convinced. President Alice, we have all misunderstood Chinese medicine. It is indeed a magical medical skill. Mr. Qin is the best doctor I have ever seen. There is no one like him." Seeing that Qin Haodong had conquered these arrogant foreigners with his strength, won glory for Wuxia and made Chinese medicine famous, the classroom immediately burst into warm applause. The applause was as loud as thunder and lasted for a long time. When the applause faded, Alice said to Qin Haodong, "Dear Qin, on behalf of the World Medical Association, I invite you to join us. Would you like to join us?" Hearing this, the students who had just calmed down became excited again. The World Medical Association represented the world's top medical skills. Although some Wuxia people had joined before, they were all Western medicine practitioners. If Qin Haodong could join the World Medical Association, he would be the first Chinese medicine practitioner in the world, which represented the world's recognition of Chinese medicine. Xiao Weiman and Wan Taisong looked at Qin Haodong excitedly, expecting him to accept Alice's invitation. But Qin Haodong shook his head. With the alien demons around, how could he have time to work in the World Medical Association? "Miss Alice, thank you for your invitation, but the World Medical Association is not suitable for me." Seeing that Qin Haodong refused Alice's olive branch, everyone was shocked. They did not understand why he would give up such a rare opportunity. "Dear Qin, why did you refuse me?" "Well, as long as you agree, I will appoint you as the Vice President of the World Medical Association. This is already my greatest power." Unexpectedly, Alice did not give up. On the contrary, she increased the weight of her invitation. Now there was only one Vice President of the World Medical Association, Rooney. If Qin Haodong joined, he would become the second Vice President, second only to the President. "Oh my God, that's great. If I were Mr. Qin, I would immediately accept the invitation. Yes, this is the honor of our Wuxia medical community, the honor of Chinese medicine." Everyone cheered excitedly. In their opinion, Mr. Qin would definitely not refuse this time. But to everyone's surprise, Qin Haodong shook his head again and said, "President Alice, I really don't have time to work in the World Medical Association. I still have a lot of things to do." Alice was also quite surprised. The offer was already very generous. "Qin, what on earth do you want to do? Are you going to save the Earth?" Qin Haodong smiled. What he wanted to do was really to save the Earth. If the alien demons invaded, the whole Earth would become their territory. "Miss Alice, you're right. I really want to save the Earth." He was telling the truth, but it sounded like a joke to Alice. "Well, Qin, I invite you to be the honorary Vice President of the World Medical Association. You don't have to go there at ordinary times. You can go there to exchange medical skills when you have time. Is that okay?" Qin Haodong thought for a moment. It was not a bad choice to be the honorary president. He could go there when he had time. He could also improve the reputation of Chinese medicine. He said, "President Alice, I accept your invitation." The 9th update. Chapter 739. Seeing that Qin Haodong had finally accepted her invitation, Alice excitedly turned around and said to all the members of the delegation, "According to the regulations of our World Medical Association, we need to make a joint decision to recruit new members. Now I appoint Qin Haodong as the nominal vice president of the World Medical Association. Let's vote." Everyone was happy for Qin Haodong just now, but they didn't expect that they would need to vote. They immediately became nervous again, and all the students present looked at the members of the World Medical Association. "I agree." James raised his right hand high and was the first to stand up. "I agree too." Unexpectedly, the second one to stand up was Rooney. It seemed that he had been completely conquered by Qin Haodong. The third one was Nedved and the fourth one was Gulit. 10 seconds later, all the members of the delegation of the World Medical Association raised their right hands, including Alice, who was standing on the stage. In the end, Qin Haodong officially became the vice president of the World Medical Association with a unanimous vote. "Qin, from now on you are one of us." Alice gave Qin Haodong a big hug and kissed him on the cheek, which made Qin Haodong feel that this beautiful foreign girl was taking the opportunity to take advantage of him. There was a thunderous applause and everyone gave Qin Haodong a warm round of applause. At this time, Xiao Weimin stepped onto the podium and said to the crowd, "Students, please be quiet. I have another important thing to announce. On behalf of the Ministry of Health, I award Dr. Qin the Best Medical Contribution Award." He was not impulsive. The blood revival elixir developed by Qin Haodong had benefited millions of leukemia patients in Wuxia, so he deserved this title. The medal had been prepared for a long time, but he had not found a suitable opportunity to receive it. Today he happened to be in class. He took out the medal from his pocket and solemnly put it on Qin Haodong's chest. The moment he put on the medal, the students below the stage cheered again and applauded. Looking at Qin Haodong standing on the stage, Huang Fuxing and Gu Xiaoyan had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. Gu Xiaoyan in particular suddenly said in her heart, "You ignored me yesterday, but you can't afford me today." In the past she had only treated it as a joke, but today, it was displayed in front of her. She had once given up on this man, but today he had become so outstanding. He was so outstanding that she had to look up to him. There was no chance for her to climb up the social ladder. Huang Fuxing's heart was full of frustration. In the past, the most important thing he could show off in front of Qin Haodong was his family background. His family was considered rich in Wufeng County with millions of property. However, Qin Haodong had donated hundreds of millions of yuan, which was several times more than his family's property. There was a huge gap between the two and there was no comparison at all. At this time the bell rang, signaling the end of today's public class. Xiao Weimin and Alice left the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine with the delegation of the World Medical Association. The students present did not let Qin Haodong go. They asked him to give another lecture in unison. He was here today to preach and teach Chinese medicine. Since everyone liked to listen, he naturally wouldn't refuse. Then he started another class. Time passed quickly. Before they knew it, the bell rang again. This time no one asked Qin Haodong to stay. After all, he was their teacher and there would be many opportunities to listen to his lectures in the future. Everyone surrounded Qin Haodong like stars surrounding the moon, leaving the classroom and walking to the door of the teaching building. "Mr. Qin is so outstanding. From today on he will be my idol, the only one. I don't know if Mr. Qin has a girlfriend. If he is single, I must pursue him and give birth to a lot of monkeys for him. You wish. How could Mr. Qin like you? He is so outstanding. If he wants to choose, he should choose me." All the students were talking at once. At this time, a male student patted Huang Fuxing on the shoulder and asked, "Dude, are you really classmates with Mr. Qin?" Huang Fuxing nodded. The student said again, "You are both classmates and taught by the same teacher. Why is Mr. Qin so much better than you?" In fact, the classmate was just joking. However, the speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. This sentence immediately pierced Huang Fuxing's fragile self-esteem. He said excitedly, "So what? No matter how outstanding he is, his girlfriend is with me in the end. From this point of view, he is defeated by me." The student was stunned. He didn't expect that Huang Fuxing would say these words. Looking at his expression, Huang Fuxing thought that he didn't believe it. He reached out and took Gu Xiaoyan's hand and said, "Xiaoyan, am I right?" But this time, Gu Xiaoyan didn't cooperate as before. At this time she thought that if she was given another chance she would definitely choose Qin Haodong, not the person in front of her. At this moment the students in front of them exclaimed. Everyone looked in the direction and saw a large Hummer off-road vehicle parked in front of the teaching building. The door opened. Wearing high heels and black stockings, An extremely beautiful long leg appeared in front of everyone's eyes. In an instant it attracted the attention of all the male creatures. The first to get out of the car was the sexy and enchanting Hu Shaoxian. She had I6 legs, an A4 waist, a collarbone that could hold coins and a chest that could hold coke. Her perfect figure made the male students in front of her dizzy. Many people unconsciously drooled. Then, several graceful figures came out of the car. Nalan Wushuang, Nalan Wuxia, Qi Waner, Feng Wu, and several women who had broken through the bottleneck of the Saint Realm suddenly formed the most beautiful scenery in front of the teaching building. Some of them were sexy, some were charming, some were pure, some were tall, and some had S-shaped curves. In short, the 5 of them covered almost all types of beautiful women. Qin Haodong didn't expect that they would suddenly appear in the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. He stood there in a daze, not knowing what these girls wanted to do. Wu Shaoxian walked in front. The 5 people stood in a row and walked towards them. Everyone in front of the teaching building was stunned. They didn't know what these 5 women, who were 10 times more beautiful than the world's top models, wanted to do. Wu Shaoxian walked to Qin Haodong. She first smiled charmingly, then kissed him on the cheek and then stepped to the side. The second one was Nalan Wushuang, the third was Nalan Wuxia, and the last one was Feng Wu. She also shyly kissed Qin Haodong on the cheek. Everyone was stunned. So many beautiful women stood in a row to kiss Mr. Qin. What on earth did they want to do? After the kiss, the women clamped Qin Haodong's arms, pulled him into the Hummer and then left. My God, what's going on? Could it be that Mr. Qin was robbed? Robbed? I also want to be robbed. If such a beautiful woman came to rob me, I would be willing to die. Needless to say, they must be Mr. Qin's girlfriends. I'm so jealous that he has 5 beautiful girlfriends at once. Listening to the discussion around him and looking at the Hummer going away, Huang Fuxing was completely dumbfounded. Just now he had used Gu Xiaoyan as his trump card. But after seeing Qin Haodong's women, Gu Xiaoyan was simply dull. There was no comparison between them at all. Only then did he realize that he had been completely defeated. He had been defeated in a mess. He had been defeated without any bottom line. Gu Xiaoyan's mood was also extremely complicated. Originally, when Qin Haodong came to teach in the class, she had such a little thought just now. In the future, there would be more opportunities to contact with him, and maybe she could save the former relationship. Now it seemed that she had thought too much. There was no possibility at all. She couldn't even compare with a corner of those women. How could Qin Haodong like her? After getting in the car, Feng Wu was responsible for driving, and the other 4 girls squeezed in the back seat with Qin Haodong. Although the space of the Hummer was very spacious, it was still very crowded with 5 people. They were all close to each other. Qin Haodong said with a wry smile, "What are you doing today?" Hu Shaoxian said, "We are stamping." Nalan Wushuang said with a smile, "Showing off." Nalan Wuxia said with a smile, "Declaring sovereignty." Qi Waner said, "To prevent you from flirting with girls at school." Although Feng Wu was driving, she couldn't help covering her mouth and laughing. However, out of respect for the sacred master, she didn't say anything. Qin Haodong said with black lines on his face, "Do you have to do that? I'm here to attend classes. How can I flirt with girls?" Qi Waner said, "Why not? Sister Feng Wu was flirted with by you when you were at school. This is a lesson for the future. We will never allow this kind of thing to happen again." Well, whatever you say. Qin Haodong knew that it was always a man who failed to quarrel with a woman. He changed the topic and said, "Where are we going?" Wu Shaoxian said, "We have worked hard for so many days and finally broke through the bottleneck of the holy stage. You should reward us well. Accompany us to go shopping, have a big meal, and you will pay for it all." "Well, whatever you do, I'll accompany you." Qin Haodong and the girls didn't return to the Tang sect until nightfall. After entering the door, Tang Tang was watching TV with Chu Xianyue, and Lin Momo was looking through her mobile phone. Seeing Qin Haodong and the others coming back, Lin Momo cried, "Haodong, look, the internet is full of news about traditional Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong took the mobile phone and saw the news that the World Medical Association had come to the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine for an inspection. It had spread all over the world and dominated the news headlines of many websites. Traditional Chinese medicine of Wuxia has emerged and won the unanimous approval of the experts of the World Medical Association. Alice, the president of the World Medical Association, said that traditional Chinese medicine is a magical medical skill and will make greater contributions to the development of world health. The medical sage has conquered the World Medical Association and the whole world with his magical medical skills. Looking through these news, Qin Haodong felt very happy. These positive news could create a great advantage for the development of traditional Chinese medicine in the future, so that more people would pay attention to traditional Chinese medicine and recognize it. Hearing their conversation, the other girls also picked up their mobile phones and looked through them. Suddenly Hu Xiaoxiang cried, "Haodong, look at this news." Qin Haodong glanced at the screen of the mobile phone she held up. It directly said, "A famous scholar exposes the medical sage Qin Haodong's academic fraud. The inspection of the World Medical Association is a complete farce." Then others also found similar news on the internet, and soon a piece of news recorded by Lu Zhiping popped up. They clicked on the video and saw a thin man in his 40s sitting there talking with confidence and assurance. As an expert scholar of biology, I have to responsibly tell you that there is no scientific basis for traditional Chinese medicine at all. The so-called meridians and the so-called qi are all tricks to deceive people. Traditional Chinese medicine can't cure diseases at all. Qin Haodong is also a clown. The so-called experts and scholars of the World Medical Association are either deceived by his tricks or hired by him. There is no credibility at all. Chapter 740. That bastard. He's full of nonsense. Nailan Wushuang said angrily, "He doesn't know anything about traditional Chinese medicine, but he slandered traditional Chinese medicine. What a lunatic." Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "He's not a lunatic. He must have a plan." After the World Medical Association left, the explosive media publicity definitely created an unprecedented opportunity for the development of traditional Chinese medicine. Lu Zhiping stood out at this time. Obviously he is not targeting me but the whole traditional Chinese medicine industry. I think this matter is far from as simple as it seems. There must be a lot of tricks behind it that we don't know. At this time Nailan Wuxia flipped through her mobile phone again and said, "Haodong, this shameless guy posted a new post. He wants to publicly challenge you and expose your scam in front of all the people in Wuxia. I really don't know how such an ignorant person has more than 10 million fans." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Does he want to challenge me? I really don't know who gave him the courage." At this time his mobile phone rang. It was Wan Taisong. It must be something important to call so late. He pressed the answer button and heard Wan Taisong say in a hurry, "Little Qin, did you see the news? Lu Zhiping jumped out to target you." Qin Haodong said indifferently, "President Wan, I saw it, but he is not targeting me, but the whole traditional Chinese medicine industry in Wuxia." Wan Taisong said, "Little Qin, no matter what, this Lu Zhiping is very difficult to deal with. He just called me and formally challenged you in the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Should we accept the challenge? If it doesn't work, I'll find another reason to refuse." "President Wan, you can't refuse." Qin Haodong said, "If I don't dare to accept his challenge at this time, the positive influence brought by the World Medical Association yesterday will all disappear. Everyone will think that what he said is true and that traditional Chinese medicine is a scam." "You're right." Wan Taisong was also confused by the sudden news. He calmed down and said, "It seems that we have to accept the challenge, but you must be fully prepared. This Lu Zhiping is really powerful." Qin Haodong said confidently, "Don't worry, President Wan. As long as I'm here, he won't be able to do anything." As soon as he hung up the phone, Xiao Weiman called again. "I don't know what's wrong with Lu Zhiping. He actually jumped out to cause trouble at this time. Haodong, are you confident?" "Of course I'm confident, Minister Xiao. Don't worry, I'll handle it well." After hanging up the phone, Qin Haodong thought for a moment and dialed a series of phone numbers. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy and you will never be defeated. He had to find out more about Lu Zhiping, and the dark net was the perfect person to do this. There was nothing in the world that they couldn't find out. "Mr. Medical Sage, I'm very happy to receive your call. Your performance at school today was wonderful." As soon as the phone was connected, Donnie Randall's sweet voice came from the other side. Qin Haodong said, "You found out so soon. Are you sending someone to spy on me?" "Mr. Medical Sage, your news has already blown up the entire media circle. Do you still need me to monitor you? Although our dark net is very powerful, if we go to inquire about everything we won't have enough people." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "I'm just joking with you. Now I need you to do me a favor." Donnie Randall said, "Do you want me to help you investigate Lu Zhiping, who doesn't know what's good for him?" "Yes, it's him. I want to know the specific information about him." Donnie Randall said, "Mr. Medical Sage, I knew you wanted to investigate this guy. I've already prepared the information for you. I'll send it to your mailbox now." Qin Haodong said, Thank you, Miss Randall. You're very smart. Mr. Medical Sage is really smart. Lu Zhiping even dared to provoke you. He must be tired of living. Donnie Randall admired Qin Haodong very much. The dark net was extremely powerful, and the only thing that could make her feel afraid was this seemingly gentle Wuxia man. Qin Haodong hung up the phone, turned on the computer, and began to read the information sent by Donnie Randall. The information was very comprehensive, and even recorded that Lu Zhiping peeped at a widow taking a bath when he was a child. Although Qin Haodong had a powerful spirit and could read things quickly, it took him a full hour to finish reading the information. Closing the laptop, he sneered. As he had guessed, Lu Zhiping was not a madman who jumped out to make trouble. There was a manipulator behind him, and that was the Angel Pharmaceutical Group in Europe. The Angel Pharmaceutical Group was one of the largest pharmaceutical groups in the world. Its industries covered the 5 continents, and it was even more influential than the Wilson Group. Lu Zhiping had a high IQ and was very smart when he was in school. When he was a child, his family was poor, and later he was sent by the government to study at a famous university in Europe. During his study, he was infiltrated by the Angel Group and became their pawn. His main role was to suppress the traditional Chinese medicine industry in Wuxia, reduce the influence of the traditional Chinese medicine industry, and increase the market share of Western medicine in Wuxia. After all, Wuxia had a population of more than 1 billion, and the daily consumption of medicine was astronomical. As long as the market share was increased a little bit, the profits would be immeasurable. After graduation, Lu Zhiping quickly became famous with the help of the Angel Group. He had 2 ways to hype himself up. One was to crack down on fake medicine, and the other was to expose the inside story of other industries to increase his influence among the people. What he wanted to do in the end was to use his influence to discredit traditional Chinese medicine and affect the sales of traditional Chinese medicine. The trip of the World Medical Association to Wuxia made the Angel Group feel the crisis. Once the traditional Chinese medicine industry developed, it would greatly reduce their market share and take away their money. In this case, as soon as the World Medical Association left, the Angel Group immediately asked Lu Zhiping to make a statement to reduce the influence of this matter. In a word, Lu Zhiping was a dog raised by the interest group of Western medicine. On the surface he was speaking out for the people, but in fact he had been betraying the interests of the whole Wuxia. He was a complete traitor. He was also a celebrity on the internet, especially in debating. Since his debut he had never lost, so he had won the support of a large number of fans. However, according to the information collected by Donnie Randall, Lu Zhiping had hidden a lot of dirty tricks behind his victories. If he encountered a powerful opponent, he usually adopted 2 ways. First, he would check the personal information of the opponent to see if there was any corruption, academic fraud, and educational problems. As long as the opponent had a flaw, he would seize it and use it as a means to threaten the opponent. Second, he would use the power of the Angel Group to threaten the opponent and his family, even at the expense of creating some cruel means such as traffic accidents, to threaten the opponent. With his good eloquence in these 2 points, he had been successful for many years. As long as he debated in public, he would definitely win. A sneer appeared at the corner of Qin Haodong's mouth. Lu Zhiping's means didn't work on him at all. Since Lu Zhiping provoked him, he could only say that his good days were over. At the same time, in a villa in the capital, Lu Zhiping was having a video call with a white man in his 50s. Mr. Mora, I've already learned that Qin Haodong is very eloquent and has a profound attainment in traditional Chinese medicine. I'm afraid I won't have any advantage in debating with him. Can the organization think of some ways to put some pressure on this guy like before and make him admit defeat? On the big screen, Mora shook his head and said, "You can only rely on yourself for this task. This is the order of the higher-ups. And you can only win, not lose. Prepare well and use your debating skills. If you can win the debate tomorrow, the higher-ups will give you $20 million as a reward." At first, Lu Zhiping was a little depressed, but when he heard the amount of the reward, his 2 small eyes suddenly lit up and he said excitedly, "Don't worry, Mr. Mora. I'll definitely work hard. Dear Lu, I wish you good luck." After that, Mora disappeared from the big screen. After turning off the video, Mora turned back to a white man in his 70s and said, "Boss, why don't we help Lu Zhiping? If we make that guy yield and cooperate with us to slander traditional Chinese medicine in front of the public, the effect will be doubled and we will definitely make a lot of money." The white old man shook his head and said, "Don't act rashly. This is the order of the higher-ups. We can't afford to offend that guy for the time being." "What? There's someone we can't afford to offend?" Mora's face was full of disbelief. After working in the organization for so many years, he knew how powerful the organization was. It was the first time that he had met someone they didn't dare to offend. The white old man said, "Well, don't ask too much. Anyway, Lu Zhiping is just a small pawn of ours. If he can succeed, we will make a lot of money. If he fails, it's no big deal. Let him run his own course." The next day, in the auditorium of the Imperial Medical College, the time for the battle between Lu Zhiping and Qin Haodong was already full of students who had come to watch the battle. After reading the news that had been circulating last night, everyone was so angry at Lu Zhiping that they all came to cheer for Qin Haodong. However, there were also some people on the internet who had ulterior motives standing up to express their support for Lu Zhiping, claiming that he was the spokesperson of science. On the front stage of the auditorium, there were two debating tables facing each other, about 3 meters away from each other. At 10 o'clock, Qin Haodong and Lu Zhiping walked to the stage, one on the left and the other on the right. On Qin Haodong's side, everyone cheered and applauded, while on Lu Zhiping's side there were boos everywhere. However, Lu Zhiping was also a person who had experienced many debates and great storms, so he was not moved by the atmosphere of the scene at all. After sitting down, he looked at Qin Haodong and said first, "Mr. Qin, although this is your home field, it doesn't mean anything at all. Science can defeat everything." Qin Haodong smiled faintly and said, "Mr. Lu, since you have challenged me, please tell me first why you say that traditional Chinese medicine is unscientific." Lu Zhiping's heart sank when he saw that Qin Haodong's mood was stable and he was not provoked by him at all. It seemed that today's debate would not be easy. However, he had made sufficient preparations last night, so he did not panic too much. He continued, "Now is an era of science and everything is based on facts. As for the things advocated by traditional Chinese medicine, the so-called qi, the so-called acupoints, the so-called meridians, the so-called yin and yang, the so-called heat and cold, which one of them can be seen by everyone? I have always followed the spirit of science. I think that what can be seen and discovered by everyone is true. Otherwise, everything is a fraud." Chapter 741. Lu Zhiping was aggressive. Although what he said was a cliché attacking traditional Chinese medicine, it was the most difficult thing to answer. After all, the theory advocated by traditional Chinese medicine, whether it was yin and yang, meridians, or qi, could not be put in front of people, so it was difficult to be directly persuasive. In order to make today's event more influential, Lu Zhiping found many media reporters, who had surrounded the entire debate platform. The momentum was no less than that of the World Medical Association yesterday. At this time, everyone's eyes were focused on Qin Haodong's face, looking forward to his answer. Qin Haodong looked at Lu Zhiping with a smile and asked calmly, "Mr. Lu, I heard that you are a well-known scholar and have great achievements in scientific research?" "Of course, I have always advocated science." Lu Zhiping raised his chin with a smug look on his face. Qin Haodong said, "Then I have a question. What is the temperature of the sun? What is the distance from the earth?" Lu Zhiping was a professor and had always regarded himself as a scientist. He immediately answered, "The surface temperature of the sun is 5,500 degrees Celsius, and the center temperature is about 20 million degrees Celsius. The distance between the sun and the earth is 149.6 million kilometers." After he finished speaking, he felt a burst of pride. Not everyone could clearly remember these data in their minds. Qin Haodong smiled and asked, "Professor Lu, did you measure these data? Or did you see it with your own eyes?" Lu Zhiping almost choked to death by his own saliva. "What nonsense are you talking about? These scientific data were speculated by scientists. If he had been asked to measure the temperature of the sun, would he still be alive now? Speculated? You said that traditional Chinese medicine is unscientific without seeing it. Why don't you believe these speculations?" Lu Zhiping was speechless. He licked his dry lips and said, "Mr. Qin, these things are too far away from us. They can't prove anything." "Too far away? Then let me ask you another question. Have you seen your great-grandfather?" "No." Qin Haodong said, "Then you haven't even seen him. Should you question his existence? According to your theory, only what you see is true and scientific." Only then did Lu Zhiping realize that Qin Haodong was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. He looked cheerful, but every step he took was a trap. "Qin Haodong, you're just quibbling." "Am I quibbling or are you speaking against your conscience?" Qin Haodong said, "So what people haven't seen doesn't mean it doesn't exist. For example, we ordinary people have never seen things like genetic codes and viruses. Do you think they don't exist? TCM has existed in China for 5,000 years and has made immortal contributions to the survival and reproduction of the Chinese nation. It is a treasure left to us by our ancestors, and no one is allowed to question it. His debate just now seemed a little tricky and absurd, but the effect was the most direct, the most powerful, and the easiest to accept. As soon as he finished speaking, thunderous applause immediately rang out in the hall. Lu Zhiping had debated many times. Although Qin Haodong had taken the lead, he did not panic. After the applause subsided, he said, "I often hear that you Chinese medicine doctors use thousands of years of inheritance as a bargaining chip to prove the illusory thing of traditional Chinese medicine. In fact, it is still unknown whether traditional Chinese medicine has made any contribution to the human race. In the era of complete belief in TCM, the average life expectancy of our Wuxia people was only 30 or 40 years old. Since Western medicine came to Wuxia, the average life expectancy has reached 70 years. From this point of view, how much contribution do you think TCM has made? I even think that the short life expectancy of Wuxia people is inseparable from the use of unscientific things like TCM." The audience sitting under the stage were all students of the School of Chinese Medicine. When they heard Lu Zhiping distorting the truth and discrediting TCM, they immediately became excited and wanted to rush to the stage to debate with this guy. Qin Haodong still looked calm. He was not irritated by Lu Zhiping's words, nor was he disturbed by his nonsense. He continued to speak with confidence and assurance. "Mr. Luo, according to your theory, when we believed in TCM, the life expectancy of Wuxia people was short, while the life expectancy of Europeans and Americans who have always believed in Western medicine should be longer. But this is not the case. At the same time in history, the average life expectancy of Europeans and Americans was shorter than that of Wuxia people. This really shows the value of TCM." Oh, Mr. Qin is right. The role of TCM in Wuxia cannot be erased. Mr. Qin, that's great. I support you. As soon as Qin Haodong paused, there was another warm applause from the audience. After a while he said, "Nowadays people's life expectancy is extended, which is caused by many factors. In ancient times the average life expectancy of Wuxia people was short, and the main reason was that they died of hunger, war and other factors. Since ancient times, when it comes to medical skills, TCM has never been inferior. This can be fully proved by historical data. In the process of human development, nearly 100 million people in Europe died of the Black Death, but Wuxia was unscathed. Nearly 75 million people died of the Spanish flu, but Wuxia was fine. 25 million people died of the Justinian plague in the West, but Wuxia was still unaffected. None of the top 10 major infectious diseases in the world has ever broken out in Wuxia. What do you think we rely on? Is it luck? Of course not. It's our amazing TCM. TCM has protected the reproduction of Wuxia people for thousands of years. Now you're questioning it as pseudoscience. Don't you feel ashamed?" When Qin Haodong finished his speech, there was another burst of cheers and shouts. His words ignited the passion and recognition of TCM among the students. Although Lu Zhiping looked calm, there was a hint of panic in his eyes. The young man in front of him was not like the old TCM doctors he had dealt with before. Although those old TCM doctors were very skilled, they had been working in medicine all their lives. Their minds were not very flexible and they were not good at talking. Just a few months ago, he had a debate with a well-known old TCM doctor. At that time, he only used a few words to provoke the old TCM doctor's anger and make him completely lose his mind. He used the recognition of certain leaders and certain honors to prove the scientific nature of TCM. In the end, he made a fool of himself and became really angry. Qin Haodong was not only young but also quick-witted and sharp-tongued. His little tricks didn't work at all. Since the beginning of the debate, Qin Haodong had firmly gained the upper hand. No matter what, he had to win today's debate. Taking a deep breath and suppressing his panic, Zhiping continued, "Dr. Qin, I have to say that you're very eloquent and good at stirring up people's emotions. But the truth is the truth. You can't change it with a few beautiful words." He reached into his pocket and took out a newspaper. "Dr. Qin, I don't know if you read the news 3 days ago. A TCM doctor caused the death of a 5-year-old child because of careless medication. I don't know what else you can say in the face of this fact." After he said this, there was a silence. This news had been really hot recently, and many people had stood up to criticize TCM because of this matter. Everyone's eyes focused on Qin Haodong's face again. They didn't know how the witty Mr. Qin would answer. Qin Haodong said, "Mr. Lu, you don't have to read the newspaper. I've also read about this medical accident on the internet. Lu Zhiping slapped the table and shouted with great momentum, "A TCM doctor killed a 5-year-old child. It's a crime. What else do you have to say? This is enough to prove that TCM is a trick. It can't cure diseases at all. On the contrary, it's a trick to harm people." Qin Haodong said, "The official hasn't given the final result of this medical accident. There's no clear statement on whether the death was caused by other causes or by TCM. Please don't make a final conclusion. Putting this medical accident aside, I want to ask you, Mr. Lu, have you done any research on the number of deaths caused by TCM medical accidents? What's the ratio? How many deaths caused by Western medicine? What's the ratio?" "Well, I don't know." Lu Zhiping didn't answer. In fact, he had done such research. He originally wanted to use it as an important weight to attack TCM. However, after the results came out, he found that TCM had far fewer deaths than Western medicine. "Mr. Lu, you are a well-known scholar. Do you not know this data, or do you dare not take it out?" Qin Haodong sneered and said, "In reality, the number and ratio of deaths caused by Western medicine are far higher than those caused by TCM. To be specific, how many people die every year because of penicillin allergy? How many people die because of wrong diagnosis? How many people die because of improper surgery? When Western medicine kills people, why don't you say that it's witchcraft? It's unscientific." Lu Zhiping was speechless again. Using cases as a material attack was also one of his common means, but it failed again in front of this young man. Qin Haodong turned his head and said to the reporters and students around him, "Whether it's Western medicine or TCM, it's inevitable that there are cases of failure. But once there is a case of failure, the results are completely different. The death caused by Western medicine is a normal case of failure. It's inevitable. It won't affect its science, nor will it affect its status in reality. No one will stand up and curse. But once there is a medical accident in TCM, many people will jump up and curse. They will say that TCM is witchcraft, a fraud, and unscientific." This time there was no applause. On the contrary, they fell into silence. The atmosphere became extremely heavy. His words made everyone think deeply. That was indeed the case. Many people subconsciously thought that it was inevitable for Western medicine to have medical accidents, and it was even reasonable. But when this happened to TCM, the whole society lost its tolerance. There was a lot of criticism. What on earth caused this to happen? Lu Zhiping cried again, "Qin Haodong, I admit that you're very good at quibbling, but these things you said are illusory. The yin and yang and meridians mentioned in TCM can't be seen, and what you said is still invisible. All you can do is use these imaginary things to deceive the public. It's not scientific at all, and it can't stand the test of time." Qin Haodong knew that this guy was a dog raised by the West. He was paid to do things and had no so-called scientific spirit at all. Qin Haodong lost interest in continuing to argue with him. He sneered and said, "Do you mean that the invisible things are not scientific?" Lu Zhiping cried almost hysterically, "Of course TCM is illusory. It's made up by you people to deceive people. It's the most unscientific example." You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.